Check. Hi guys, good morning everyone. Good afternoon guys. Thank you very much for being patient with us. We're supposed to start at 12, but unfortunately we had some delays. So I just want to say welcome and thank you again for your patience. My name is Trust Roy, and I'll be the host for today's event. I also have a panel session I'm moderating later on today. And so, it's glad to have you guys here. Please, let's lighten the mood of the room and please put your hands together for yourselves for coming through. Thank you. That's the vibe. That's the vibe we're looking for. This is the intellectual property workshop, right? And we're here to learn about intellectual property. In my usual style, I really do like to engage like the audience and just get where their mind is, So I'm just going to try three of you here, right? Yeah. What do you hope to benefit from today's workshop? Let me start with you. Tell us your name and then, probably what you do and what you aim to benefit from today's workshop.
Okay, my name is Victoria. I'm a student from the University of Lagos. I came to learn more about intellectual property, basically.
Hi, my name is Ahmed. I'm a student of MBA 2023. I'm a student of MBA 2023. So I also came to learn about. I also came to learn about intellectual property, to learn about the dots and don'ts about the whole intellectual process of making music, etc. So basically, that's what I'm doing.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Esther, and I'm a lawyer. For today, I just really want to learn more about, aside intellectual property, how it applies in the music space, how splitting of royalties should work in a perfect scenario, and just learn more.
you're really happy, Abby. Abby, make a call. Do you want me to go? All right, that's fine. Who here has heard of WIPO before now? You've heard of WIPO before now? Okay, amazing. What does WIPO do, please? Can you just help us? Like, if you have an idea, there are no wrong or right answers. Like, it's what you know you're going to tell us. So, what does WIPO do? That's fine. So, WIPO is the World International Intellectual Property Organization, and it's a global forum for intellectual property. And what they do is, they're on a mission to develop balanced, effective international IP systems that enable innovation and creativity for the benefit of all of us. And they are funded by the United Nations, and there are about 193 member states in WIPO. So I believe that we're here for a good time. We're going to get a lot of knowledge from what we're here to do. So without further ado, can we have our panelists come in? Okay, so we can briefly just introduce them. Okay, so before we have our panelists coming, I would really like to get our welcome remark out of the way. And ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the founder of CIFA, the MD, Sony Music Publishing West Africa, and the person of Godwin Town. Welcome, Jason.
Hi, guys. First of all, thank you guys for coming out. And to those online, thank you for giving this time. We felt the need to do this because when we started MBA, initially when I started MBA, it was supposed to be like this place to train people about the music business. It was initially about talent management. And as we evolved, we realized that we needed to add more topics. But also, you see, the challenge with adding more topics is you need specific skill sets for these topics, which was why I decided, I can't just call it a talent management agency anymore.
I have to start thinking about how we can make this a lot bigger. So I started reaching out to my friends. That's how MBA for Africa became a thing, right? A lot of goodwill, a lot of relationships. But as we continue to develop the program, we find one thing that sits in the center of everything we need to do as a people: intellectual property. It's not just about your, oh, I have this creative talent, we're making a lot of money, we're doing etc. The problem is, how does this IP, this intellectual property that actually carries our culture, our DNA, the things we own, how do we protect it? And we can talk about talent managers from now to tomorrow. We can talk about musicians from now to tomorrow. If we don't sort out the core issue, which is how do we protect, as Nigerians, as Africans, how do we protect our intellectual property, our property, right? If you build a house and the house looks really nice, the first thing you do is you build a fence to protect it, or you put it in an environment that you know is safe. We are not doing that for us. So we're building these nice houses with our talents. We're going abroad. We're selling our shows, but we're not protecting this property. And that is why this program became extremely important for us. I want to thank WIPO for actually committing to this. I don't think I've stressed anybody else as much as I've stressed Moody, but we're at a point now where we want to show the importance of this partnership. This is the type of content we will cut and share, right? It's not the one that will not wait until it's, I mean, nothing against anybody dancing naked, but we also need to, even that one, it needs to be protected, Abi? So we need to ensure that we're building an ecosystem that works for all of us, that works for everybody. So I want to use this opportunity to welcome you all to this workshop. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for GT. Thank you very much. Again, I think it's really important that if you find nuggets, anything that you find that's really important from this session, there's something that is a custom. If you ever went through MBA, which is sharing information, right? There's a bubble that we create on social media. So please, once you find something that I think person has said something that made sense, please just tweet it, put it in the space, put it out into the world, so that this you help to inform one more person and they become better aligned. Can we just do that? Okay, so later on, I'm going to let you guys know the hashtags to use so that we can always track and see what is going out on Twitter, Instagram, or whatever social media platform that you use. Thank you very much. Now, please, let's welcome the person of Moody Oluwatobilola. He's the director for WIPO Nigeria. We're here to have his keynote address. Thank you very much, Moody, for coming through. Please put your hands together for the man.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's a great pleasure to be here, and let me start by thanking you, Godwin. I think I've stressed you more than you stressed me. So, but it's a real great pleasure to be here, and I want to thank everyone who is here. I want to thank all these amazing speakers as well, and really excited about the partnership and the opportunity to be able to collaborate on this important activity. You know, as Godwin was saying at the outset, intellectual property is so important, and the more I think about it, we think about it, a lot of leaders in the space talk about it. I think it's just the question of why don't we know enough about intellectual property, and what can we do to push more awareness and create more opportunities for people to see the way that intellectual property can transform, you know, livelihoods, societies, and the likes. And so I think it's against that background that I want to just say that it's really a delight to be able to collaborate with MBA, CIFA and MBA to be able to put together this workshop today. Now today I won't speak for long, but I just want to say about three things. The first is to talk about a little bit about, so the first is to talk a little bit about WIPO and to just give you a little introduction to who we are and what we do. The second thing I want to do is just to highlight a few thoughts around awareness, raising more awareness on intellectual property and what it really means for the creative industry. And finally, I just want to highlight a few programs that some of you might be interested in. And so just a quick introduction about WIPO. We are a specialized agency of the United Nations, and we have a mission, which is to lead the development of a balanced and effective international IP system that enables innovation and creativity for the benefit of all. And I think one of the things that we really drive and seek to do is to see a world where innovation and creativity from everywhere, actually anywhere, is supported by IP for the good of everyone. And so when we think about intellectual property, I really like, and I'll just tag on to the analogy that GT had used at the outset, is that sometimes you can think about it as like a house, like physical property. The same concepts that apply to physical property, we're trying to translate them to see the reality of this intangible or not so physical property. And it's sometimes hard, sometimes I talk to people and they say, well, we haven't even finished protecting what we can see. Why would you be telling me about protecting what we cannot see? And I guess maybe something to just say on that is that the value of what you cannot see is actually overriding the value of what you can see. And whether or not we know it, the value creation in what you cannot see is really where the wealth transfers are happening. And I think if we want to be able to position ourselves in a way that we're able to tap, not just from the present, but even for future economy, we need to be able to understand early what intellectual property is to those who create it and to those who have it, and how you can best protect it to secure yourselves, even as the world transitions into this, I would say, kind of intangible world. Let me just give you a quick statistic that I stumbled on while preparing today. And it's just that in the last, sorry, I just want to scroll down here. And so in the last 20 years, I don't find it here, but in the last 20 years, the value of intangibles has more than, it has increased more than tenfold to about $74 trillion today, all right? So we're talking about value. And just some years ago, about 25 years ago, we were not thinking about intangibles in that kind of, in those kind of numbers. But today we're seeing that the creative industry, and I'm going to be specifically talking a bit about that, is really driving a whole new real world of opportunities of value that if you don't see the intellectual property, we're going to be missing out on. I just give a quick example now, just to move into my next point, that when you go to an estate, if you see an estate, or two estates sitting next to each other, on the one hand, you have these very fantastic buildings in one house, in one estate, and solid lights, excellent pathways, lots of recreational facilities, top buildings. But most of the people in those estates are renting their property, all right? And you go to the estate next to that, and in that estate, you probably don't have as much flashy houses. You have lots of beautiful places, but maybe not as flashy as the other one. But all the guys there own their homes, and all the guys in that second estate also rent to people in the first estate. Now, where do you think the real value is when you look at those two estates? It's in the estate where people own their properties. And I think sometimes we are blindsided with the fact that what looks very flashy, it can look like, yes, you're making lots of money, but you have to try and trace the value streams. Who owns what? And the conversations around intellectual property are really to bring us to a point where at the end of everything, you can see wealth coming back into those who create what they have. And so I think what we want to be able to see is that in a place like Nigeria, where there's so much opportunity and so much going out, that the value is ultimately still coming back. to people right here in Nigeria. And we want to be seen as not just as people who rent the things we own, we're meant to own, but people who actually own the things. And that's really where IP awareness is so critical. And so by recognizing the rights of inventors and creating a society in which innovation is rewarded and rights over inventions are respected by the society, by states, and even the law, I think what we then what we begin to see is that investments are encouraged, and the benefits, both in terms of development as well as economic returns, are really felt in the society. Creatives for themselves also begin to find greater satisfaction in their expressions when they know that their moral as well as economic rights over their creativity are both understood and regarded in their society. And so I think what we need urgently, and I'm really glad that even ways like tweeting and sharing, talking to a friend, ways we can create more awareness, what we are succeeding in doing is creating a cultural shift. Yes, there's still a need to talk to legal counsel. There's a need to work with experts, people who are seasoned in the space. But I think, first of all, we also need to be able to see a society where everybody who uses and who creates is aware, at the minimum, of what intellectual property is. And so finally, I'm just going to mention that one of the programs that WIPO has developed is what we call WIPO for Creators, which is an open public-private partnership that WIPO has also launched with the Music Rights Awareness Foundation. And it's something that I see Justin is here, and Justin has been working extensively on that. Now, the launch of that initiative is going to be on the 17th of this month. And I think it's going to be just an opportunity also for people to be able to connect with awareness tools and resources that will help creators with understanding their rights and related management practices, to also ensure that wherever around the world, there's a community where creators can come together and collaborate and discuss and share ideas. And I think we, as an organization, are really keen to see how that will grow and transform opportunities for even creatives in the space. And so without taking much more time, I want to thank you all for coming today. I want to especially thank again the organizers who have worked so hard to make this a reality. Thanks to speakers and everyone who's taken time to be here. I know the Third Mainland Bridge was closed today. We struggled to come in, but thank you for all being here today. And I look forward to a wonderful discussion. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Modi, for that very heartwarming keynote address. So without further ado, let's head on into our first panel conversation for today. The panel will be moderated by a Nigerian journalist, the founder of Afrobeats Intelligence, and he's also a podcaster. He describes himself as a troublemaker. Please put your hands together for Joey Akan. Welcome, Joey.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Okay. Okay, so it's panel time. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to be able to do this. And so, yeah, everyone seems dull. How do we get the energy back up? So okay, so are you guys excited? I want to hear your voices. Are you excited for this? Good, good. Energy, I feel it. All right, cool. So let's just go straight into it. So today we're having a couple of panel sessions, but this first one is what I like to call the more explanatory one, because all we'll be doing here is teaching you about the rudimentary of everything, how it works, who owns what rights, that's what it's called, but how rights are distributed across the industry, across the creative process. And so, yeah, your notepads and notebooks should be out, because I have extremely impressive people here to work with me on this. So let's just start. So the first person on the panel, my first panelist, is Ifeyinwa Anya Diego. Put a round of applause, please. So while she comes up, Ifeyinwa Anya Diego is a music executive and a lawyer with extensive experience in legal advisory and business development and strategy initiatives. Over the past 4 years, she's been the head of legal at Chocolate City Group. As part of her role, she advises and leads legal and business growth product development, intellectual property rights enforcement and protection, licensing, talent management, and publishing in the entertainment industry. So she's contributed heavily to the group. Through her efforts, she's moved them from one stage to another, and this one's a better stage. And she graduated from University of Hull with an LLB and has a master's in intellectual property and policy from University of Manchester. Welcome so much.
Thank you.
It's all yours.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go into the next one. You see, this is the energy. That's exactly what I wanted. Thank you. So, number 2, we've got Justin Ige. Round of applause for Justin Ige as he comes up. So, Justin Ige is currently the principal counsel at Creative Legal, a full-service law firm with emphasis on media and entertainment law as a practice area. He's worked as a media entertainment attorney for over 10 years and has been successful in establishing public performance and mechanical royalty regimes. Equipped with a diploma in music technology, he transited from professional musicianship, music producer, and studio engineer. Okay, so you've been behind the console. Beautiful. To attorney. He has over 10 years experience of music licensing, entertainment litigating, and handling and managing rights organizations, including local and multinationals, including one of the big 3, the majors. A round of applause, please, for Justin. Okay, number 3. This one's very special to me. Her name is Oyin Konsola Fawehimi, aka Foza Doza. A round of applause for Foza, please. Okay, so Foza is commonly known as Foza, of course. She's a multifaceted individual embodying the roles of a lawyer, a music business executive, and fervent advocate for women within the African creative economy sphere. That's the creative economy lawyer. That's who she is. Foza's impactful journey encompasses her tenure as the past managing partner at Technological Partners, as the former CEO of Incubation Factory Entertainment Limited, and former president of Digital Music, Commerce, and Exchange Limited. She's currently the lead consultant at Zeta Oracle Limited, a creative economy, legal, and business solutions company in Africa. Her accomplishments have not gone unnoticed, of course, earning her accolades like the 2022 Future Awards Africa Prize for Lawyer, the 2021 Esquire Awards Young Professional of the Year, and recognized at the Turntable Power List twice. Furthermore, she's authored the memoir So Far So Forza and is currently pursuing an MBA at Quantic School of Business and Technology. Forza's story epitomizes a dedicated advocate, transformative leader, and inspiring force within the music industry and beyond. A round of applause, please. Okay, so let's just get in quickly. I'm so excited. Welcome everyone. Welcome to this session. Let's just go in. I'll throw this first to. So this is very explanatory. Everyone's trying to learn. I see a lot of books out there. So think of this as you teaching. We've got an hour to do this. So take your time. Okay, so let's start. So for you, Foza, I'll start with you. So what are the different types of intellectual property rights held by songwriters, and how can these rights be differentiated?
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to tell you that 1 hour of my time is $500. So, right now, Burna Boy is charging $5 million to perform. You people will buy tickets to go and see him. Me, I'm here talking for free. You are not answering me. Good afternoon, everybody. Good. Thank you very much. You are welcome. Intellectual property is not boring. It's rich. Because people are looking at, because it's not Burna Boy that is on stage. You're not excited. Arya Star is more exciting. But anyways, so I'm just going to start basically, because the question is specific to songwriters, but I'll kind of just paint the different stakeholders in the industry, then go into a bit of the IP rights that govern, then I'll pass it to the panelists. So in the music industry, you would have the different stakeholders you find composers, you find the composers, under the composers, you have songwriters, your instrumentalists, your producers, as you call them. That's kind of like the bedrock of the guys that form the stakeholders of the industry. Then you move on to the guys that invest. So you find the record label, you find the music publishers. Then you move to the next level of collecting, monitoring, which is now what we refer to as your collecting management organization and so forth. Under this major three, you find different sects of your distributors, your this, your that, and whatnot. So now, IP, what is IP? Like Dr. Moody said in his introduction speech, is basically that law that protects anything that is born out of the mind, right? So anything that is created out of the mind that translates into whether you can see, feel, touch, is what, it's intellectual property. So like Dr. Moody said, one of the things we're trying to help people understand is to liken whatever comes out of that mind as a potential house in Banana Island, like I like to say. So for music, the bedrock for us, the beginning and the starting point for us, the product which we engage, which we trade, which we monetize, we derive the rights from the copyright law, right? There are other intellectual property rights, but the one that is specific to the music industry, the first one and one of the most important would be your Copyright Act. Then you move further, you have trademark, the trademark law. And most times we deal with image rights, which is most likely you refer under the Constitution to have conversations about, as is not an individual conversation on its own, like we have in other developed countries. Sorry. So your Copyright Act is when we delve into it. I'm going to leave that to Justin because he's the guy that can talk about that the most. But that guy that goes into the studio and gospel on the beat is pressing the piano and you're doing do re mi fa 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 fa. Oh, the bum bum is big. It's not big. The girl is jumping because that's the only thing they sing about. That guy, what protects you from the moment those lyrics, whether it is glorifying Jesus or is glorifying wherever it's glorifying, is being protected by the Copyright Act, right? That songwriter writes the song. Sometimes the songwriter proceeds to perform, which is now you've written it. For example, well, I think one of the most popular examples now, you have a guy called Embryo in the industry that is a great songwriter, has written one of the biggest songs in the industry right now, but you don't necessarily see him as a performing artist, but you see an Arya Star that is a performing artist, right? So sometimes Arya Star can also be the songwriter and also be the performing artist. Embryo most times is the songwriter and not usually the performing artist. Then you have Gospel on the Beats, who is also being protected by the Copyright Act. So that's as basic as possible, the different types of rights that protect. And you see that you have a producer called Gospel on the Beats and you don't have any other person bearing that name. What protects him is the trademark law, right? It's like you can't, like for example, you can't use FOSA. I dare you actually to use FOSA because it is protected by the trademark law, right? And that is because, so sorry, there's one bad flu in Lagos. So that the trademark actually is what would now make me be able to go out and say, oh, I want to write a book that's called So Far So FOSA. I want to do a merchandise or a face cap that has FOSA on it, and I'm going to make money from it. The trademark art is what protects me, and it's under the intellectual property rights. So yeah, those are the different types of intellectual property rights that we mainly deal with in the music industry as stakeholders, primarily.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. And Justin, she mentions all of the artistry, all of the different components drawing protection from the Copyright Act. So I want to know two things from you. First, if you could give us like a basic summary of this Copyright Act, basic summary, and then tell us how all of these rights interact with each other. Where does one start? Where does the other stop? How do they interact? Like if a song is being made, what's happening in there?
Okay, in short, you're asking me to speak for the next 1 week.
Yeah, a basic summary, sir.
All right. Let me say a word or two or 25 regarding the immediate last question.
Okay.
Fosa has done a very good job. Can we do that?
Yeah, sure, sure, of course.
Fosa has done a very good job about giving us a wide perspective, right? I would like to spend a moment giving us a very narrow perspective, as narrow can be. We cannot properly appreciate the rights involved in songwriting if we do not know what songwriting is from a legal perspective and from an industry business perspective, and perhaps even from an academic musicology perspective. I'm not talking theory. This is real. It affects people's income. And I've had instances where this is what determines whether somebody is entitled to money or not. If you work in the music industry, let me see your hands up. Or aspiring. Music people. Okay, good. Gentleman over there, please can you give me the microphone? That's my approach. Yes, what is songwriting? What is songwriting? How do you know? What do you do? What do you do?
No, I'm aspiring for now.
Aspiring?
To be in the music industry, to be in the music business especially.
What's your skill?
I'm a copywriter for now.
Copywriter. Okay, yeah. Good. So you're not in the music?
No, not yet.
Okay, music people. Music. What do you do in music?
Music production, sir.
Music production. Are you a songwriter?
Yes.
How so? Why do you think you're a songwriter?
Because before
not all music producers are songwriters. Some are not.
Okay.
So why are you a songwriter as a music producer?
I believe to write a song, you have to create the melody.
Yes.
And what a music producer does
yes.
is create melodies
yes.
and add percussions.
Yes.
So once I create melodies,
yes.
I've written a part of a song.
Yes.
Then someone comes, maybe me or the artist,
yes.
adds the lyrics.
Yes. And that is why you are a songwriter.
I think so, sir.
Okay. He's right and he's wrong. A music producer, let me say it here now. Myself and Fosa, we started a company in 2016. Isn't that so? A lot of the work we did there has resulted in a lot of information, but at the same time, it has resulted in a lot of disinformation. You are a producer, does not mean you are a songwriter. The work of a producer, music producer, is not to create melodies. It is not to do drum beats. A producer in music is like a director in film. You oversee the recording process. A music producer's core role oversees the recording process. This was an issue on WIPO for creators, because now who is a songwriter? Right? So we have a lot of professionals saying, okay, it's a producer, and I'm talking about the best brains in the world. So I'm seizing this opportunity, even though WIPO for creators has not launched until November 17, my birthday, that you're a producer doesn't mean you are entitled as a songwriter. But if in the course of producing or just drinking alcohol in the studio, you happen to write a melody, then you are a songwriter. Right? So it's not the title that you bear, I'm a music producer, it's the role, the contribution. So if you created a melody, you are a songwriter. What is a melody? Because that's also an issue. What is a melody? You. Yes, give him the mic. Let's be quick. Let's be quick. I'm not very nice like that. Did you say we should teach, Abby? Yes. Okay, good. So if you create a melody, you are a songwriter. Yes. So what is the melody?
I don't know. I'm not an artist, but I would say melody.
You look like one
a lot
now.
to do with rhythm.
Rhythm?
Yeah.
Yes. What else?
I don't know. That's just all I can think about.
Absolutely correct. Two components of melody: rhythm and pitch. Rhythm and pitch. What song is that? No. Again. That's the rhythm of a song. It's the most popular song in the world. Happy birthday. I didn't sing it, no lyrics, I didn't even hum it. That is the rhythm. That is the rhythm of the melody. So somebody can write that, create that rhythm, is a songwriter. No lyrics, no tune, no keyboard. Are you with me? So if you're in the studio, you create that, fine. If I say, da, 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 yes, that's rhythm plus pitch, because pitch, high notes, low notes, right? The other component of a song, apart from melody, is the lyrics, right? So if you write just the lyrics, you are a songwriter. So it's not about whether you are the producer or you are the hype man or you are whatever else. If you create melody or lyrics, you are a songwriter. The melody could also be instrumental in nature. Instrumental in nature. You are a songwriter if you create an instrumental melody. There's no lyrics attached to it. It's a musical instrument that is playing it. If you created it, I didn't say if you played it. I did not say if you played it. Because now a lot of people who are session guitarists, gong, hey, gong, is arguing for publishing split. For a gongorista, be claiming publishing. I mean, I've heard, and I'm not biased to percussionists. I took gongo in school. It was my minor, frankly, before I went to study law. Yes. So I'm formally trained as a gongo player. I took exams in it. But that doesn't make us, we gongo players, songwriters. Right? Guitarists. I've played session saxophone. If I did not create the melody, even as a session, I'm not one of the songwriters on that song. I'm not entitled to any of the rights Fosa was talking about. It doesn't concern me. I have other rights, though, but not as a songwriter. Do you understand what I mean? Maybe I'm speaking too much, but it's important to get this fundamental point, right? Now, to the question of an instrument. A fairly popular producer has gotten himself into significant trouble because he did not listen to, you played keyboard here on this song doesn't make you
but he felt they've told him that he's producer. And as producer and the person that played the keyboard is a songwriter. He's caused for himself a lot of trouble. Right? You must create. The core thing is you created this. You created it. If you're a keyboard player, you played chord 1 5 4 6. You didn't create it. You've been playing that chord progression since forever. What did you create? If you're a bass player and you're just going along with the chord progression, you didn't create it. But if you created the bass line, there's something called a bass line. Maybe Mr. Moody will tell us what the bass line is. Tell us what the bass line is. I'm not nice like that.
I hope I can describe, but it's like a consistent, yeah.
You did well. Clap for him. It's a melody that the bass guitar plays that keeps going. One of the most popular bass lines. Dum dum da dum dum da dum dum bum da dum dum bum da dum. Isn't it? We all know that's the bass line for what? One Love. Isn't it? Bob Marley. Almost all Bob Marley reggae songs, they have some very distinctive bass lines. So if a bass guitarist goes into the studio and, okay, here's the song, just okay, I have this idea, and creates that, is a songwriter. Once it is clear and distinctive like that, it's a songwriter. Created that melody. Now, to my own question, after I have jumped on her own, right? What are the rights available to songwriters and performers? Because under the Copyright Act, it's not just about the songwriters and performers, that it is whether you created it or not. If you played it, you also have rights as the person that played. That's the meaning of performer. Or if you sang the song, whether or not you created the song, right? You are entitled to some rights. If you sang the song or you played the song, either on an instrument, right? You played the drums, you played the gong, you played some other instruments, or you sang, you're a performer, you also have rights, right? Now the law has changed very recently, right? Previously, if you are the artist, just because you are the artist, you are just the artist. Who is an artist? Who knows? Legally, an artist is different from industry-wise who the artist is. Or do you understand? Music, they will say the artist is the lead singer. Abi, the lead singer. But in law, the artist is the person in whose name the record was released. Whether or not he only played shekere, or he just DJ, just did a little scratches, or did a little hyping. I think there are some controversies around some comedians that you are not even know how is he even the artist self. You are wondering. In law, he is the artist because it was released in his name.
So just to make that a bit clearer for people. No, it's just a quick question. It's a quick question. You're explaining something. But just to make that a bit clearer. So in situations where we have people who love music, they aren't DJs, they aren't comedians, they're just people who love music, and they've put A&Rs in their bio. And then they release a song, they bring a couple of artists together, put a song under their name, and then release that. Does that make that person, he's had no contribution towards the entire thing. He's just the guy who sort of executive produced it and A&R'd it. That makes him an artist too?
He doesn't need to executive produce. He doesn't need to lift a finger. He doesn't need to contribute anything. He doesn't even need to bring them together. As long as it was released in his name, he's the artist. old law, which you see apply to all songs that were done before, all records that were made before 2023. It's still quite close. I should still mention it, right? However, so the artist owns the sound recording. It's not the person that funded it. It's not the label. It's not the... No. The person in whose name? Old law. Right? Unless under contract. So if under the old law, you just funded and drop money and drop money and drop money, but you didn't sign a contract to transfer the rights in the recording, what we call the masters, to you as the financier or the label, it doesn't belong to you. You've done free investments, free everything.
Sarah.
New law, current law, 2003 law has changed. Some people are happy now, right? Because some people thought that was unfair, right? The new law now says that the rights in the masters, in the recording, that record, right, will reside in the person by whom the arrangements for making the record was made, right? The person by whom the arrangements were made. Who can tell me who that is? Is that the artist? Is that the gong player or the drummer? Who is that? The person by whom the arrangements were made. Can we push it between panel to panelists?
Yes, we can.
My answer would be biased. My answer would, regardless, be the label.
She says she votes for the label.
The person who called them to gather and create the machinery.
Yes,
create
absolutely.
The song. To me, it would be the label.
Because she's label exec now. You have a different view. Who has a different view? Artist manager. You see it?
Everybody has rights now, man. Like, it's, bro,
you're not happy.
And I know that this is like, no. I know this is like, and I'm happy that's why I said you should talk about it, because if I talk about it, everybody say I'm too angry. So, but this thing it just broke down. I'm literally in court, and I have a client that's lost up to $100,000 because some human being just decided to interpret the law according to how you wanted to interpret it. And we didn't even find out until like we wanted to do this very big sync license. And they are telling me there are 3 people on the record. I'm like, no, I signed all the conversation. I went to all the sessions. I don't understand who this person is, right? And the conversation was, oh, I played the guitar. So I asked, I'm like, did you create? Because I'll give you an example of some creation of compositions that has happened in recent time. If you listen to Soweto by Tempo, right? And if you listen to Soweto and Love One Tin Tin, Tempo and the guitarist actually composes the very unique, that's why, very distinct, that's why you hear Soweto. Do you understand? So it's like, you don't come and play your guitar on the beats that is already up there. You are arguing with me, and I'm just like, all right, you know what? Let's just go to court and have a conversation about it. And record label is fighting, music publishers are fighting. I'm just like, I'm getting paid. Our manager now wants to be the owner of it, except you put money in it.
Now, what he said might have shocked us, but it is reasonable. That's my view. Why? The law says the person by whom the arrangements were made. What does the manager do?
That's a thin
Is
line.
it not? What does it do now?
That's
what does the manager do? Is it not to make arrangements?
Extend it's a thin line.
Isn't that what the manager does? The artist manager is making arrangements. He's arranging everything. Is he not so?
Strategizing is different.
So please don't crucify him. Clap for him. He's thinking. He's thinking. This is my view.
Okay.
Right? Backed up by the view of all the other professionals in the world. So I'm speaking, but it's not just me that is speaking, right? By whom? By whom the arrangements were made. It doesn't mean the person that made the arrangements. It doesn't mean the person that made the arrangements. By whom? If I give you money to go and make arrangements, is it by you? No, it's by me, because I gave you the money. I instructed you. I facilitated. I made it happen. This event is happening by whom? In fact, I'm speaking now by whom? By WIPO. I'm the one speaking, but it's by WIPO. This talk is going on now by WIPO and music business. It's not until Godwin comes on this stage and speaks himself. It's not until Mr. Moody comes on this stage and speaks himself. So yes, the manager might make arrangements for making of the recording. Somebody else that the label might employ, for your employee will drag with you. Do you understand what I mean? The law is by whom. So my opinion is that it's the person that is dropping the money, the person funding it, right? That is it. And that is how it is seen in the industry, from here to India, to England, to China, to, do you understand? I've had international people tell me the old law was absurd in Nigeria, because they were like, what do you mean is the artist? So they can't comprehend it, right? The situation in US is a bit different, right? Which also affects, because let me tell you, we can't talk about this subject by just looking at Nigerian law. Music business is global. We play by global rules with some consideration for local laws. Reality. And when we talk about global rules, we are to a significant extent talking about American rules. Truth. Mr. Moody would like to tell us about Berne Convention and all this, what you call balancing. Abi, the objective is for balancing. WIPO objective is for balancing, so that America doesn't just say something that is completely outrageous from what is happening in Nigeria. So WIPO does what? Balancing. Otherwise, people with more economic power will be bullying everybody else. But irrespective of that, you cannot deny the influence of US. You cannot deny it. It's a little bit more complex, but I wouldn't want to go into that. Now, all that I have said, everything that I have said, only matters if you did not enter contract. Otherwise, it's whatever you agree in writing that it is. So you can give your cleaner, you can give your manager. Once you agree, then that person owns it, right? So we've talked about the rights for the songwriter as provided under the Copyright Act, the performer, right? See, under the current act, the performers now have much less rights than they used to. To a large extent, the performers' rights now, especially for film, now automatically resides with the producer of the film, against Nigeria's international obligations under the Beijing WIPO Treaty. I don't know whether Mr. Moody is going to do something to Nigeria about that. You know, so that is it about performers' right. You have a right over your performance, right? And then we've talked about the sound recording, which is the masters, right? Is there anyone I've left?
The publishing.
Publishing is about the musical work. It's about the songwriting. So when you talk about publishing, you're really talking about the songwriters, right? Under US, they're still a little bit different because now you have publishing rights kind of separate from, you know, But the truth of the matter is, what we need to know is that you hear publishing, you are thinking about musical works and songwriting and composing, right? That's what we're talking. That's what we're thinking about. So thank you. I hope I've been very brief.
Thank you so much. Oh, okay. If anyone, as he referred to you, the label exec. So for you, you do a lot of this work with a lot of people, songwriters, performers, publishers, record labels. You run the entire spectrum of the production process. For you, when you are negotiating all of these rights that they've generously expressed, when you're negotiating these rights across board, for you, what's important for you? What are the key considerations you would think about when negotiating?
So let me start with what I think people think is the most important, but I don't think so. I think people think that the advance or the upfront money that you get is extremely important, but to me it's not, because you can get an advance today and never see another dime. And when I mean never, like legit never see another dime. So I think artist label needs to think about the return process in terms of like accounting and even royalties. Again, when you say royalties, what do you mean? This is the, not rebates per se, but this is the consideration that you get back for your music being exploited. As you know, the royalties are subject to certain type of cost. I always look out for what those costs are, because if I sign a deal that says I would recoup, or my artist or whoever would recoup after expenses, what are the expenses? Are they direct expenses, indirect? Don't add the Uber that I took to the studio to your bill. That's a danger. Thank you. Like you literally see expenses down to every little thing. So the artist is thinking, yeah, my marketing budget is, again, throwing out figures, 50K. Okay, yeah, my song is charting, I'm charting. Yeah, so I should be able to, maybe in 2 years, see results. And when you look, because your contract says costs, it doesn't limit the cost. It doesn't say direct costs. Direct costs are limited to marketing, limited to the promo, recording. Yeah, wait, 2 years comes. I'm not laughing, but 2 years comes. 2 years comes, are you ready to tell your friends that we're gonna hammer? And then you see your statements and you see, oh, alcohol, Mattel. Like these things actually happen. So I would say be very intentional about your recoupment process, the royalties. Royalty splits, yeah, are important, but to me, it's about what is coming back, because you can have 50% of zero and have 10% of something that actually comes in. So these are things that I would look at. I would also look at the ownership of the content. They've already explained, you assign your rights, you assign your rights to the label. There's a difference between term rights and ownership rights. So you can be in contract for 5 years. If your ownership period is 5 years, subject to recouping, then you go 5 years. If your ownership period is for life, I mean, it's gone. So you need to look out for things like that. You also need to look out for even like the term. Now, I don't know, I think when I first started in when I joined, like maybe 2018, 2019, deals were longer. Deals where you have somebody, and this is not necessarily personal experience, but this is just like industry gist. You have maybe an artist signed for maybe 3 years and 5 consecutive options. It's not 3 years. It's 3 years and 5 consecutive options. So the options can be maybe, so I'm going into the term. So the options can be another 3 years, 3 years, 3 years. On paper, it's 3 years, but when you've gone through the 5 options, you get like my math is not, it could be like 15 or thank you. again, that's something that you need to look out because it's not clearly spelled that this is more than that. What else do I think you also need to be mindful about the rights that you give out? Are you giving? What are the rights that you're giving? Is to exploit here, but is it limited? Is it on all platforms? Is it transferable? Is it irrevocable? Is it the rights to translate? You need to be extremely careful just so that you can monitor your ways of exploitations. I would also even like, are you also granting your image rights, which is extremely key? Imagine having the rights to a song, but you don't have the rights to the artist's image. You can't push that song because you only have the rights to song. So you need to be smart about things like that. Everybody hopes for things to go well, but you also need to be careful about the termination. Trust me, when you're signing an artist or when everybody's happy, the artist doesn't even bother to look at the termination because he's like, or she's like, I've hammered. So it's good, it's fantastic. But what happens when somebody doesn't deliver? So you need to ensure that your termination clause, I mean, if I'm speaking for the artist now, I would say ensure your termination clause lets you get out with as little liability as possible. So don't sign a contract that says, oh, for the first 4 years, I can't get out. There are contracts like that. Because the thinking is that
you're saying too much. You're saying too much. She's giving out all our trade secrets.
Sorry, no. I want to teach now. No vex. No vex.
I mean, I'm just wondering.
That's the point. That's why it's a workshop. They're learning. Are you learning?
Trade secret.
Are you guys learning?
Trade secret is part of IP. You can't be giving out all our lawyer trade secrets.
No. Fair use. No, well, okay. Well, this personal use. Well, okay. Thank you, and a safe space. For the artists, just make sure that you live with as little liability as possible, even if you're going to pay back. Just be smart about that clause. For the label, no problem, you can go, but your content is key. So I wouldn't be key. I can let you go, but I'm not necessarily key to let your content go because I need to make the money back. So termination clauses are extremely important. I think I'll just leave it. Let me know.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't want to be kicked out of the bar association.
Thank you so much. So just quickly, because we've covered a lot of. Thank you. So we've covered a lot of the work, who owns what rights, and key considerations where you're signing. But just to, and this is for you, Forza. So the different ways in which everyone owns rights now, we've established that everyone. But how can you fully exploit these rights in the ways that you can? What do you need to exploit these rights? Whether you're a performer, songwriter, any part of the spectrum you fall under, how do you exploit this?
So, Justin said, if he's giving all the traits, I've been talking about 10 years, Justin, they still don't listen. It's very annoying, and how many of you here are content creators? How many of you here are artists? How many of you here are songwriters? How many of you here are producers? Now, how many of you here are music business executives? Okay, so you people, what do you do? Just, how many of you are lawyers?
Lawyers are fair.
So now this is the thing. This is MBA, WIPO, and this is the problem. The problem is we keep educating ourselves. Even though there's still a theory, like I said, I was telling someone the other day, my capacity as a human being, as I've clocked 30 and I'm an old woman now, yeah, I'm old. I can't handle more than 5 superstars at the same time. Jones, I was like, I will literally have a mental breakdown if I exceed 5. It's tested, proven. Because imagine I'm doing David Bernard, Wiz at the same time. Those lawyers, they don't have life. Do you understand? Because that's the enormosity of what you are dealing with. So let's now do the ratio of 1 lawyer to 5 artists, right? That means, and we have, by 2030, they say what? We are going to be like a billion more, 35%, 70% below 35, meaning there's going to be an intellectual explosion in Africa. So right now in the entertainment industry in Africa, in Nigeria, I went to South Africa, went to Tanzania, went to Rwanda all through this year. Nigerians still have the best, most knowledgeable IP lawyers on the continent. And it's not like I'm being proud. It's just like that's what's happening. Now you now streamline that to entertainment. So that means that if you're doing a ratio of 1 to 5 artists, we seriously are underserved as lawyers, right? Now, for the artists, everybody is saying, oh, and this is where the real problem about intellectual property is on the continent. The people that own it are refusing to learn. They keep saying that there's barrier to understand, but I know the number of workshops WIPO has done. I know the number of times I've gone to go and speak for free. I know the number of times that Godwin has organized free stuff. They still don't want, you know what they want to do? Oh, my boss, Mama, you're my God. And I don't even think that that's really, it's a poverty problem. It's a poverty problem. Because why are you looking at me that I'm not driving a Maybach or whatever I say, and you think I'm your God because why? I live in Magodo and I drive a car. Like, so I'm your God. Meanwhile, you're the guy that will sit down and you create a song like Calm Down. Now, you've refused to educate yourself. The lawyers here, that's like 90% of people here, they've gone to go and educate themselves. Then you now want to go and meet them and say, help me. You're not coming with value to have a conversation. So to your question of how to exploit, employ entertainment lawyers. I'm not even going to say employ managers. I've been saying this since the beginning of my career. Managers don't like me. A&Rs don't like me. Who are the other people that don't like me?
Nobody likes you.
Nobody likes you.
We like you.
And to be honest, I really don't care because it's like, if you come and meet me as a lawyer, now, first of all, you've listened to everything that I said today. Some of you here, even as the creator, you don't understand the difference between songwriting and many of us that were trained IP lawyers, entertainment lawyers, we literally have a creative background that we just refuse to further exploit.
We just didn't blow. So we decided to just follow on plan B.
Wow.
You know, so it means that they have a mixture of both. So if I'm telling you, the first person as a creator to have a conversation with is a lawyer, is an entertainment, not a real estate lawyer, not your daddy's real lawyer, not oil and gas, not Festus Keyamo, not Gani Fawemi, because what they were doing was human rights law, not intellectual property law, right? When I tell you, go and have a conversation, those are the people that will tell you, oh, you are, let's say, for example, your name is, let's say you're Charlie Poppy, and in Iju, you can command 100 people. I know what I will tell you and advise you to do to exploit, whether it's your songwriting, whether it's your image rights, whether it's your performance. It's the same force that can tell you and say, oh, I'll speak to, or I'll speak to Chocolate City, or I'll speak to Empire, or I'll speak to this person, or I'll speak to Sony Publishing, because I know, you know, they take care of jazz writers. I know they take care of X person. I know that's why you pay me. Right? Now, yes, your managers, everybody, Godwin is probably looking at me and saying, but I'm training managers. But like, these people are, but the first person you should be having a conversation with is a knowledgeable entertainment lawyer. They're the ones that will tell you and say, for you to go and sign with that record label, sign with that record label because that record label has a track record with dealing with hip-hop artists, right? And don't sign for more than 5 years. Because at the 5th year, you are big enough to be able to be transferred or be upscaled to a bigger record label. Oh, don't pick America, pick the UK or pick the Europe because you are doing Afrobeats. And America, you know, probably only would lean to R&B and hip hop. But Europe is more multi-diverse and, you know, you can extend those rights to this place. These are the conversation an experienced, seasoned entertainment lawyer. And we're not cheap. Please, I'm not here. Before I'll tell you, yes, WIPO will give you free education. I will come here on WIPO by whom? The arrangements of WIPO and MBA, and I'll do my free quota to the. But if you come and meet me outside, I will charge you because you know what? I don't want to be Moses. I've opened the Red Sea and I'll not enter. Because now when I started hearing that they're paying people $5 million to perform, even when I'm signing some agreements, I will just be looking and say, hey God, are you sure I should not be carrying microphone?
Where's your 10%?
Even that 10%, you not start fighting. And that's why, I don't know, maybe MBA, we try to do this. WIPO, I think it's also something that we should incorporate when we are teaching this. There's a dearth in financial literacy. And I feel like that's the bane of IP. Because if you understand that I can give this 10% so that I can get 90%, or I can give this 100% so I can get
or secure.
Exactly. But no, the new language, once they just bring something, America is telling you, own your masters, own your masters. Which masters do you want to own in Africa? You are poor. Music is expensive. I'm not going to give you, I have one rubbish boy that I spent 3 years of my life putting all my savings into. My savings came up to almost 50-something million. Now, at the point of when I'm supposed to now say, okay, I've done the development, so that let's exploit. Then you wake up and said, because I licensed one song to a big label and expecting a return, you say, I stole your money. Are you a bastard? So what do you expect me now? Now, if I start to deal with you, the label is bad. I don't own my masters. Which masters do you want to own? Are you going to pay the press to push the music? And I'm talking this is what I don't like to talk again because I'm angry. But I see people, because I've gone around, and Godwin is my witness here. We're talking about, because when we talk about all these rights, it's said to fuel innovation and economic growth. Chalk City will put money so that they get money back. It is not charity. I'm not your daddy. Tell your daddy to drop 100 million on your career. Your daddy won't do that. So why do you think me as a stranger will drop 100 million and I will not get my money back? It is unfair. It is wicked. It is callous. And the more you keep doing it, we keep doing it in this thing.
It's generous. That's how the artist sees it. It's generous.
See,
it's not generous.
And it's not because you keep doing this. Then FDI, while looking at it from outside, I'm like, why should I put my money here? Then we can't expand the industry for some of us to now say, okay, whilst the younger ones are doing that, let's go and now start building the ecosystem. Because you have made me so broke, I can't fight. I'm hungry. No, I'm being, let's be because if we want to fuel economic growth, we have to also talk about the financial literacy of it. There's a big poverty endemic amongst creators because it's just like the way when they were teaching us entrepreneurship. Be an entrepreneur so that you can eat. No, entrepreneurship is about innovation to create wealth. And for you to create wealth, it takes time. Not the type of entrepreneurship they were teaching us in school that, start selling beans and gari, put the money. That's why most of us just run businesses like we're running pure water. So my admonition today is employ an entertainment lawyer and they will help you exploit it. Thank you very much.
We agree.
Okay. Cool. We're back. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Fenua. Thank you, Justin. Thank you. But before, just as we're rounding off, two sentences, just rounding off. Two sentences, please. We're just rounding off. And I want them to get this part because you guys are so knowledgeable about this. How can the Nigerian government support the creative industries and protect the protect the rights of copyright holders? 2 sentences, please.
Stop employing SSAs that don't have any profile.
Two sentences.
Very important. It's very important.
I think, okay, how can Nigerian government?
Yeah.
We have to use advocacy to encourage Nigerian government first to value IP or the entertainment industry. Because if they don't value it, they won't put the resources because they are not putting the resources. They won't put the manpower. They are not putting the manpower. And they won't put their attention. They are not putting their attention because they don't understand the importance of creativity and innovation. So, and whose job is it to make people understand the value of creativity and innovation? Mr. Moody.
Yeah.
So it's all about him.
Okay, thank you. Advocacy then. Thank you so much. If anyone, from your standpoint.
So whenever you hear government and creativity, is actually a bit, it's half and half because too much involvement creates a restrictive environment where you can't create, and not enough involvement or reduce just lets the system fall apart. So I think where we are, if the government really wants to help, they need to be intentional about putting policies that support the structure, support the system. I would give an example of something that I still think is crazy. I remember when I was doing my master's, so my lecturer then, he said that internet in third world countries was a luxury. And then like my friends were laughing. I was like, no, real talk. Like having a structure, having the government figure out a structure like internet would do, internet is cheap, accessible, will do wonders to the growth of the economy. So the government just being intentional about structures would definitely help.
All right, thank you so much. Round of applause for everybody, please. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, before you go, no. I just got word. We've got lots of people here with questions. Do we have questions? Yes, I want, when you talk to me, be stronger. Do you have questions? Good. First, hands up, please. If you've got questions, please, hands up. I'm taking 3 of that. 3 questions. So 1, 2, and then 3. Okay, cool. So let's start with the one closest to me, brother.
Greetings to you all. My name is Too White, Bedu Poet. Yeah, Too White, Bedu Poet. I'm that poet that can make you dance to poetry. All right, so my question is, as an independent artist, how do you protect your own intellectual property when you don't have a body like a record label in the interim?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. As an independent artist, you can get your documentation. I think to me, just start there. There are templates that you see online, you modify it to what it needs to be. So start there, have everything you do documented, because at the end of the day, when you have the documents, then you have the rights that you can later explore. So when you sit in a room, when you're with your creative friends, so just sign something quickly. I think that's the best way, on the quickest way to, will I say, build up your catalog and also ensure that your rights are protected up until you need to maybe upscale it or something. So there are things that you can do. It's not just, you don't need money to do everything. You can just start locally.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Moses, and I'm an entertainment lawyer. I wanted you, sir, Mr. Justin, to make it clear in simple terms. Now, while you were teaching us, my colleague whispered that he thinks that arrangement is the ambiguous word. When you talk about by whom the arrangement of the record is made.
Yes.
He thinks that arrangement is the ambiguous word.
Yes.
And Foza a while ago mentioned on and behalf of. So my question is,
is it right to say that the person on behalf of the record is made is the rightful owner to the masters?
No, no, no. In the absence of in the absence of a contract, it is the person by whom the arrangements were made. Now, what's arrangement? Arrangement means putting everything together. You want to make a recording, you're going to book the studio session, they're going to bring in the session man, they're going to get the producer, right? They're going to sort out all those things, right? They're going to get everything that needs to be done, right? Somebody will make all those arrangements and somebody will fund all those arrangements. So it's the person by whom all those arrangements are being made. I don't think it's that ambiguous. If you've been in the process of making a recording, you know what the arrangements are. It's not music arrangement, so please. When we're talking about the arrangement, it's not the person that made the music arrangement. That is a different conversation. It's not the arranger. It's not the arranger. Please, does anybody know who a music arranger is? Nobody knows. So you are not confused. It's not.
Good afternoon. My name is Peace, and I just want to appreciate the panelists. It was a very enlightening session, and it came from a place of knowledge, and I also saw passion too. And my question goes to us. It's two-faced. My question is, why is the intellectual property kind of, to me, more focused on music, the creative aspect of music? I'm coming from the part of art. Sculpture, painting, and all. It's also an ambit of intellectual property, but we see more to gear towards music and entertainment in general. So why is it that the intellectual property space focuses more on music? Secondly, I'm a lawyer, and somebody came up with me. Is an artist. He draws. So that's Mount Zion. I think Deeper Life or so. They have this magazine where they make comic characters, and it should help them draw, make some animation, and help them draw. So I know that's under IP, but there's no precept in this regard. So I don't even know how you can exploit his right. I don't know if you can expatiate on how that aspect of IP art law can be expatiated. Thank you.
Okay, let me quickly attempt that. There's a lot more discussion around music, even more than film, because music is the most complex of the copyrights, right? Now, visual art is very simple. If you drew it, it is your own. It's as simple as that. It's not the person that bought the canvas or font. No. You see it? So it's much simpler. If you made that art, you are the artist, right? It belongs to you. So how do you make money from it? It's the same way you make money from music, essentially. Licensing. You have to grant somebody permission to exploit it in a commercial way, and that the person will pay you. That's the same thing with music. Whether it's streaming, whether it's publishing, it is through license, because you cannot consume what you make by yourself and pay yourself. Somebody else has to use it to pay you. And as far as IP is concerned, the process of getting somebody else to use it to pay you is mainly license. It's not just licensing, but licensing is the bread and butter, really. The same thing for art. Licensing or sales. Music licensing or so you can sell your catalog if you want. You understand? Right.
Yeah, let me just quickly add. So the reason why we focus on music is because this is organized by Music Business Academy. But this week, there was AFRIF for film. There was ArtX last week, which I attended. There was Nikkei Art Gallery exhibition, which I attended. I took 500K there, saying I want to start being like my seniors. Let me buy art. Let me buy artwork. I see 7 million. I said my daddy is not here. Let me take a but then again, we also get this, that music tends to have a main character syndrome. but also we're the ones that were gathering 100 million people in a colonizer state and telling them to raise their shirt. So pardon us sometimes if we're a bit pompous. But yeah, for you, and also church can be a bit tricky for your nice artist. The Lord is inspiring the Holy Spirit. You can argue with the Holy Spirit, the IP, right?
Yes.
But yeah, you can attend those conferences and you see more in-depth discussion. Even though we've told them, invite lawyers, let's have discussion, they feel like we have nothing to contribute. So when they are ready, we've advocated, we've submitted, let us have conversations on this panel. They just feel like it's about their business. So maybe WIPO, you can reach out to them. They need help.
Okay.
So I think just to add, I think the reason why there's a lot of focus on music, just like Foza said, music is bringing in the money. Like, so you go where the money is. So that's why the government is paying attention, because music is doing things. Then in response to the church question, treat church like a business. Your friend should. Your friend needs to follow up. He did work, he should be paid. Tell him to follow up. Church is a business. Sorry.
Sue the Lord. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. A round of applause, please, for our wonderful panelists.
Please, can you guys hold on so you guys can take a photo together? Please, thank you. Amazing. Thank you very much for that amazing session, Joey. Before we get into the next panel, I just want to let you guys know that, earlier I said that the hashtags you can use, right, to put out whatever information or whatever thing that you've learned. So you can use hashtag WIPO, hashtag CIFA, and hashtag Intellectual Property Workshop. And I think that would help us to track and put out the information that we need real quick. If you have more questions, it would interest you to just, after the second panel, find the panelists that you want to talk to and then ask them those questions. If they can't, you can probably tweet at them. And if they have the time, they'll probably respond to you. Let's move on to the next panel session that we have now. And interestingly enough, this is still going to be moderated by Joey Akan. We're looking at protecting IP and how it affects the Nigerian economy. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands again together for Joey Akan.
And we're back. Okay, so hello, everyone. Attention, attention. So this second one's this is one of the most important ones. And one of the reasons why I like this is, so while we did a lot of learning on the very intrinsic nature of intellectual property, who owns what, who's responsible for what, who just owns it all. This one's different. This one's a bit different. This one tries to go, this panel would go broader and tell you why protecting IP is important for the economy. So it's titled Protecting IP and How It Affects the Economy. How does it go beyond your pocket to contributing to Nigeria? And how does it improve even your personal economy? So we're going in. So we have two speakers for this one. So a round of applause, please, for Fumilayo Olorofesho. So Fumilayo is a determined entertainment lawyer with a deep passion about protecting the intellectual property of creative minds in the vibrant entertainment industry. Her expertise lies in contract drafting, negotiating of entertainment contracts, and understanding of intellectual property, music licensing, and copyright protection. With a deep understanding of the legal landscape and the Nigerian dynamic entertainment sector, Fumi is currently serving creative entities and individuals among which are Teniola Apata, Teni, the SARS Academy, 1789 Entertainment Limited, and DMCE to navigate the complex legal ground while protecting, safeguarding their creative works, monetizing, and ensuring they receive the recognition and rewards they deserve. Another round of applause, please. Okay, so the next person on the next panelist rather is Amosa Shukurat. A round of applause for her. So Amosa is a seasoned intellectual property consultant, analyst, and educator with public sector experience. She holds a master's degree in intellectual property from the prestigious Africa University Zimbabwe in collaboration with WIPO and the Japan government. Shukurat is an alumni of the World Intellectual Property Organization with several certifications to her name. She's an astute mentor at the Juliana Imam Intellectual Property and Creative Consult, JIIPCC, mentorship and internship program, where she facilitates intellectual property subject matters such as IP for business, IP for creatives and inventors, IP registration, infringement and enforcement, patent drafting, and so much more. Amosa works hand in hand with the Nest Innovation Park, where she doubles as an IP focal person, as well as training facilitator, which requires her to facilitate numerous intellectual property related programs within both online and offline. She was a member of the planning committee for WIPO National IPSA Competition 2023, a resource person at the National Intellectual Property Conference, NIPC, and also a member of the WIPO International Network for IP Education. Shukurat is a pioneer of the Intangible Nugget, an educational platform which is responsible for fostering, among other things, intellectual property advocacy, awareness, and education. Another round of applause, please. Okay. The economy. Are you excited? So let's just get into this. So we start with you, Shukurat. So how does intellectual property protection contribute to economic growth in Nigeria? Remember, as you're answering, this is a workshop we're teaching. So yes, take your time. No, Nigeria, intellectual property protection. How does it contribute to the Nigerian economy?
All right, thank you for having me. So first of all, I noticed we have so many lawyers in the house. But I also like to say that IP is not limited to lawyer. It also has a lot to do with economics, and that's why we talk about economic development now. So everybody here, we are sitting on IP, like we're sitting on this chair is IP. We are speaking with the microphone is IP. You're sitting on glasses is IP. Our clothes is IP. So it is not just law. It's not lawyers that are producing these clothes, right? They are just creating the law. So what we have done with IP is that we try to balance the public rights and the private rights. So you are the owner of the IP, you have a private right. When that IP expires and goes to the public domain, there is a public right for the public people to now use that IP after it has expired. So we need to try to balance this private right and this public right and see how we can make it work in Nigeria. So now the thing is, if you have a weak IP system, it's going to hinder our FDI, it's going to hinder innovation, it's going to hinder research and development, and it's going to hinder technology transfer, and which is what we're supposed to focus on. Because I notice we are doing music, but really what brings up innovation in an economy is the inventions, the patents, which we talk less about. And from what WIPO has done, from the WIPO Global Survey, we've noticed that we have 70% of awareness of IP in Nigeria. But what is topping the chart? Copyright, with about 38. And what was at the last point? Patents. Why? Because we are not innovating. We're not doing anything, right? So if we want to attract foreign direct investment, let Nigeria grow. We need this technology transfer. Okay, we've created something in Nigeria. We need somebody else to pick up this technology. When they pick up this technology, what are they getting back to Nigeria? I don't know what's coming in. So we shouldn't really focus on music alone, though music does it, right? Music is everywhere, but we need more innovation. And the thing is, when you have a weak IP protection regime, it hinders entrepreneurs themselves. It robs them of their rights. And sometimes it can affect the consumers. I can remember buying a fake drug one time like that. I was pregnant with my second child, and I bought what's this drug we use? I can't remember the name of the drug, but it was fake.
No
right?
way.
I was like, I didn't even know why I checked the pack. I just said, let me check. I'm like, this thing doesn't look like what I use. What's happening here? And I returned it. So imagine if I had used that drug. I won't blame the seller. I'll blame the brand owner, not the seller. So if you purchase a fake product that has a fake IP name, you won't blame the person that did the fake product. It's the name you are going for. So that's why we say we need to protect our IP so that you don't have this confliction of consumer bought something that is fake and you have to come in. And that is why it's not only IP. We have NAFDAC, we have Federal Consumer Protection, you have privacy protection. So all these things are together. Don't look at IP as a standalone right. If I have an IP, if I'm not exploiting it, there's nothing, it's just there. If I put it in my cupboard, it won't bring money.
Yeah.
It's until I try to sell it or I try to extend it for something. So the IP alone won't give you money. So our focus is always protection, protection, protect. Okay, you protected it. What are you doing with it? Is it making money? And another thing I want us to draw attention is to geographical indication, traditional knowledge. That is a big place where Nigeria itself can make money. Just like Koza said, the leather, look at our what's it called now? Adire and so.
Jebugari.
Yes, it's for us, it's ours. But what are we doing with it? So those guys will come over there and they will take our ephedrine, they will extract the active ingredients and they will turn it to drugs. They took it from here and they will sell it back to us as a finished product. If our government is able to invest in all of these things and we're able to do these things ourselves, it's going to attract those people back to our country. But I keep saying it that until the government sees the oil in IP, we'll remain where we are. Thank you.
Thank you. So something she mentioned that's very important here, geographic indicators. Geographical indicators. I used to work in academia for so long, and a lot of the research we did there was on this. Like, why would champagne be only produced in Champagne in France? Why is cognac only called cognac when it comes from France? But we don't have those protections here. So that's what it means. Geographic indicator. Thank you. So, Funmilayo, just a bit for you. You work in IP, and then a part of your work also interfaces with the broader economy. For you, what are the specific challenges that Nigerian businesses face when they try to protect this IP? What have you experienced in your work?
Good afternoon, everyone. Like I said, okay. So, thank you for having me. In this entertainment industry, in this music industry where we are, one major issue that we've all been battling with is inadequate legal framework. I know every time we talk about protection of IP, just like you said, talk about protection of IP, doing your copyright notification, trademarking, and all the rest. But at the end of everything, this registration doesn't actually stop someone from infringing all your copyright. And then when this infringement happens, then you have this another issue of enforcement. How do I enforce this right? You want to go to court. But then we have this slow legal process, which is another issue to battle with. So we have the first one, inadequate legal framework, because the mode of protection that has been provided for us is not actually an end to the means. It's not like a final solution to the infringement problem. So when you battle with that, then you're looking at another issue, which is the enforcement issue. How do I enforce this right that copyright said I have? How do I enforce this right that trademark says I have? After that, when you're going to court and we have this slow legal process, which is another issue to battle with. We have a series of cases in court that stay like 2 years. There's one that I know Justin can attest to that. He did the one between Tiwa Savage and what's the name of this guy? Juwon Law song. That took years before they settled. We have another one in court, Tempo and Asha, that we've been battling with that since 2022, 2021, and it's still in court with it. So that is another issue. this industry at this point in time, I think it has come to a point where we have to like find a way to create an ecosystem around our work, find a way to protect our work outside the old registration that we are mainly used to. For example, there should be an interaction between a creative and the major players in the market. As a creative, there should be a way where a creative can actually reach out to DSP and notify them that, okay, if anybody should bring my work without authorization from me, you should not like distribute it. All of those stuff are actually issues that we're battling with when it comes to like businesses in the intellectual property industry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Shukurat, where's the government in all of this? You know, what role do they play in protecting this IP? I know I had the previous panel, I had a bit of we couldn't exactly address that. But for you, you've done all this work. Where does the government come in?
Okay, so I'm going to say that the issue is we are creating these laws, but the people that are creating the laws don't understand it. We have a judge is saying to an IP case, but the judge does not know what IP is. So why are you a judge on an IP case?
Okay.
Do you understand? So some people have been asking for, okay, let's have an IP court, like a separate IP court to people that understand IP. Okay, someone has sampled a particular music. The judge doesn't even understand the lines and the rhythm. How do you know if there's a sampling or interpolation?
And sound recording.
Do you understand? So everybody needs to get involved. But like I said, the day the government will see the oil in IP, who think it's magic. Like they'll just take everything we've done and they'll just keep running with it. But until they see that oil in IP, we've tried.
Yeah.
Individuals are trying. Private organizations are trying. But another issue is, are the audience there? Where are the audience here? They are not here. The people we're supposed to be talking to are not here. So we keep talking to ourselves. And when we go to LinkedIn, we'll talk to ourselves again. There's no engagement. You just see like 1,000 like, one comment. So who are the people liking it? No engagement. So we need to engage. So we need to look at where these people are. Where exactly are they? Because that's how they can benefit. And another thing is we need to like disseminate this information in a way that they can understand their language. Use broken English. Not everybody understand English. Use Yoruba, use Hausa, IP in Hausa, IP in Igbo. Just want awareness around that. Then the last issue I'll talk about is we all want to eat. So we talk about come and register your IP. These people don't understand that there's something called unregistered IP rights. You can have an IP right without actually registering it. For example, copyright is an unregistered right. You don't have to register it. Like, it's not necessary. Sorry, it's not compulsory, but it's necessary. Trade secrets, you don't have to register it. They are unregistered rights. Even trademark, you have unregistered trademark rights. But because we want to make money, we'll tell you, come and register. And the moment you register, what do we do for you? We are on to the next client. And it stops there. So there's no, okay, how do you commercialize? You want to launch a music. Are you doing merch? Are you putting cap, your trademark on your cap? How do you make money from this thing? So it's just protection, protection, protection. You are not even policing it. Is it me that registered that will come and police it for you, or the government? The government will not police it for you. So even you yourself, if you're not interested in making money, you won't police it. You will just protect.
And so your focus has brought me to even the next question. It's connected to this. So you are fed up with protection. You're fed up with protection. You want to exploit. So as a continuation of that, how can the owners of these rights, attract investment, exploit these rights? How would you advise them?
Okay, so I would say number one, IP, there are some theories. What are you using why do you create this IP? Are you creating it for fun? Or are you creating because you want to make money? So there are two different things. Someone that is creating for fun will not look as if I want to make money. When you're creating to make money, you say, okay, how can I make money from this? So if you create something and you want to make money from it, what next do you do? Do you see how he puts out his work? Jennifer. Yeah. I mean, they create merch. Imagine for a Charlie Poppy fan now, just see a clothing Charlie Poppy, and you see it on the shirt. Won't you buy it? That's making money for him. So
Elon Musk line.
do you understand? So all of these things, you can make money from them. So you can commercialize, either you license. And when we say license, you have exclusive license, you can do it exclusively, non-exclusive, sole license, cross-licensing. You can sell it outrightly. You can co-brand. So these are methods by which you can actually commercialize, but everybody wants to make 100% money. You don't want this person to have small parts, and you cannot have small parts.
What does it mean? Just a bit. What does it mean to co-brand?
Okay.
So is it Barbie and Hasbro? What does it mean to co-brand?
It depends. You can't just say because this person is a big brand, I want to go on that. You just realize that the person will just be covering you. So you have to have a specific target. Why am I co-branding with this person? Look at the issue of Adidas and Kanye.
And Kanye West.
Yes.
Yeezys.
Let's assume he actually sold his right to Adidas. What would have happened by now? So when he pulled out of that agreement, he was able to lay claim to his rights.
Yeah.
And others could continue selling that material. So you have to look at what exactly are you doing. Is it strategic? Why do you want to co-brand with this person? What's your benefit? So it's not because of MBA is a big this, let me just go there. Is it bringing you out as well, or is just MBA growing?
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And Funmilayo, for you, what are the best practices for protecting IP in this country? What are the best? You know, we just heard recently that a law was changed that literally changed what it means to be an artist. And so that automatically throws a lot of things up in the air. So for you, someone who lives on the edge of intellectual property in this country, what are the best ways?
Okay, so there's this struggle and fight that can be dated as far back as 1970, when we had the likes of Victor WIPO and then Olaya and Celestine Ako. We've been battling with this issue of protection, how to protect, how to fight piracy and all of that. The issue led to the whole development of PMAN that time. There was protests, the anti-piracy day and all of that. And despite the fact that there's been a review of the Copyright Act from the 1970 to the 1988, 1992, 1999, 2004, the one we had just recently that we are so happy about, the issue remains the same. Because just like I mentioned earlier, registration or notification of copyright does not finalize protection. So, and if we're talking about how to protect, we have to look at it from, are we talking about it from the individual side, that's from a creative point of view, or are we talking about it from an entity point of view, or are we talking about it from the government point of view? Because if we're looking at it from the creative point of view, a creator is the first owner. So basically the next thing to do is to do copyright and trademark. I'm very sure everyone here, since you are lawyers, you are familiar with copyright and trademark. I don't need to go into that. But when it comes to an entity, there is a first step that needs to be sorted, which is transfer of that copyright from the creator to the entity. Of course, there's a section of work for hire, and then if the IP is created under employment contract. But then if it is not, then the first step an entity has to do is to ensure that the first owner, which is the creative, sign off those copyright and intellectual property. But when we're looking at it from the point of government, then government has to like create a policy. And it's not just about creating policy, because like I mentioned, they've been creating policy right from as far back as when I was not even born. So it's not just about creating policy. There has to be a review of the policy. There has to be an update to the policy. It's not like you create law and then we have to beg and beg and beg and beg before we get an amendment of it. Apart from that, there's supposed to be like a stakeholder that review this law, and stakeholders are supposed to like come together and find a way to enforce the law, which is like the main issue, because like it's not just about creating the law. The enforcement is actually a very big issue when it comes to that. And another thing is stakeholders also have to like find a way to protect the value of the copyright of the intellectual property, because why will you spend money to protect and enforce when the value is depreciating? So we need to find a way to ensure that the value of copyright, to find a way around protection of the value to ensure that it doesn't depreciate. And the last one I will mention is there should be interaction among the stakeholders in the market so that they can find a way to curb the protection and the issues around the enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So something else that's been giving me a lot of sleepless nights is technology. So technology changes every day. Every day. Last year, the rave was 2 years ago. The rave was, crypto, blockchain, putting everything on the blockchain. Now we're screaming about AI, generative AI, and how that influences everything. And so I was wondering, technology, all of these new technologies, how do they impact the landscape of intellectual property? And what implications does that have for the Nigerian economy? Because our laws, do they cover things like AI? Maybe someone makes art, makes music now with AI, or maybe technology. Someone stays on. The other day I was watching TikTok, or rather I was spending time on TikTok, and I joined the live, and there was this producer somewhere making music on the fly, crowdsourcing lyrics, crowdsourcing ideas, crowdsourcing lyrics and all, and creating this art. In that sort of situation, now we have a song that's ready, and it has 15,000 songwriters because everybody contributed to it. How do we navigate that, especially in Nigeria and the economy and the landscape that we have?
Okay, I would say that our laws does not cover AI right now, because when you look at most of the acts, it says copyright is vested in an individual or an entity, not artificial intelligence or things like that. So the thing is, even when you create a work with AI, you that create the work, you don't own it. The AI itself does not own it. So it is only, I don't know, maybe you can now say, fine, AI has created this work, because we have to look at liability. Liability is actually where the problem is. If we give AI the right to own something, when the AI does something bad, who do we hold responsible? Is it the AI? Is it the source? Is it the person that created the AI? Who will be responsible? But if I created something and I violate the law can come and pick me. But when it's AI, who exactly do we hold responsible? So did they send the AI work? And I heard there's something called, is it machine learning also, that AI can now create work themselves now, even you without putting one or two things together. So we need to tread carefully so AI doesn't take our job, like people are saying. But AI cannot take our job. It's just to enhance, actually. And I think we had this conversation with the plug and showcase. And Dr. Shalami was like, when we say AI and you're using AI all the time, it even makes you less creative, because that's human. There's this human that like, this film is human. You want to listen to it, but you just see one robot bringing your food. And guys, if you just want find waitress bringing your food, you look at an assessor, but robot just collect it. Like, in fact, you'll be scared to collect the thing from the robot self. Do you get? But it has its own advantage. It can help us with innovation and the likes, but we have to limit the kind of rights we give to all these artificial intelligence and the like.
Then thank you so much. Final question, and this is for you, Fumila, before we open it to the audience and seek questions for those who are brimming with questions for you. So how can, and we've mentioned a bit of it, but I just want to get this right. How can the legal system in Nigeria be optimized to provide efficient and timely resolution of IP disputes? By doing that, you encourage both local and foreign investors to be able to put money in IP. So if you would break it down for me, how do we solve this problem regarding timely resolution of disputes?
She already also mentioned it. We need a separate intellectual property court. We have one for commercial, the one at Osborne that handles commercial issues. We need a separate intellectual property court, because I don't understand why and we'll have an intellectual property court in case in court for 3 years. And music, sorry, I have to use music as an example. Music has like what's it called now? Graph. It has the time that it gets to its peak, and it has the time that it goes down. So maybe when your music is supposed to like be growing up, you are fighting someone over your intellectual property and dragging back and forth. And at the end of the day, you spend 2-3 years in court, you spend money paying lawyers and everything. And then by the time you come out of court, the music is already down, the time has gone, and you're praying to God that maybe one miracle will happen one day and somebody will just
on TikTok.
On TikTok, yeah. And they'll just like the music will peak again. So we actually really need to get like our court, our own separate court that handles our matter, and that way like things can hasten up.
Okay, so we need to create new courts then. Oh,
I'm going to answer from a non-lawyer perspective. Why should you always go to court when you can negotiate? Somebody is using your work. It all ends in money. If you go to court, what do you want to collect? It's not money. And if you can negotiate with the person will still pay you money. Why do we have to go to court? I think the issue is not with the person who owns the intellectual property. The issue is with the person that actually stole, because what if the person is not ready to pay? Sometimes you don't do these things intentionally. You do it because you don't know. So if you're using my work because you don't know, and I come to you and I say, okay, look, this is my IP. You can't do it on permission. And I say, okay, so what can I do? I can license the right to you to, and say, okay, fine, I'm fine with that. And I will pay you.
We are Nigerians. Nobody asks you what can I do.
No, so people understand, but they don't want to see, do you know or you don't know? So people actually know. They know what they are doing. But the moment you raise it, you're like, okay, fine, this person no. This graduate cannot work for this person. And the other option is ADR. Like, why do you always have to go to court? There are some alternative resolution. You can do arbitration, mediation, and the like. So the end is okay, fine. Everything did not work. Now let's go to court. But that court will still take a very long time before you get your results. Thank you.
thank you so much. A round of applause for the both of them. Okay, have we got questions? Who's got a question? Okay, I take 3 each with each session. So that's 1, 2. Okay,
1, 2.
3 and 4. So 4 questions this time. This was a quick one. So 4 questions. So we'll start with the lady in front there.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so I remember in the previous session, they did speak about having structures and about how structures basically can help to fuel generating IP, being able to exploit your rights. But I'm also now relating it back to this particular session, which has to do with protecting intellectual property and how it affects the economy. So my own question basically revolves around how do we encourage intergovernmental partnerships between labels, between the government, to basically ensure that concert tickets, the price of concert tickets actually go down. Because of the fact that, sorry, but this December, they're still watching us for the concert we can afford to attend. Thank you.
Okay, Fumilayo, over to you.
Sorry, I need clarification.
Yeah.
How do you what? There's something you said in the middle of that.
Encourage intergovernmental partnership.
Oh. This one is dicey because when you have a product and you put your product out and you say this is the amount I want to sell it. So there can be partnership and sponsorship, among brands and then between label and brand and all of that. But at the same time, we need to understand that music is no longer just in our local product. It is going global, and the amount of money these people are paying outside is quite different from the amount that we're generating within. So that we have to come to the realization of that first. But at the same time, partnership with local brands can also help.
Okay, thank you so much. Do you want to add to that? How we can? Okay, thank you. Next, we don't have time. We don't have time. Let's move on to the next question, please.
Thank you. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Jason. Thank you for the discussion so far. Learned a lot. Earlier on, you had mentioned protecting brand value when it's not just about protecting your IP rights, but ensuring that the value remains so you can keep monetizing. Just thinking from your experience, what are some practical steps individuals, entities, brands can take or do take in practice to protect the value, or to ensure that the value maintains or increases and doesn't reduce in the IP? Thank you.
That's also true. Okay, so there's something called IP valuation that we'll do. Basically, it is you like checking the value of your assets that you have. And how do you do this? First thing, you like check how much your asset is generating at a particular time. When you check how much your asset is generating at a particular time, you have like a projection of how much is going to generate, maybe in, let's say, 2 years or 3 years. And then when you look at this value that you have to get from your RP, you look at the protection around it. Have I done the necessary registration that I need to do and all of that? And apart from that, outside the registration, is there anything else that I can do to protect the value of this thing? Do I need to notify the players in the industry, like this is my product, and if anybody like comes towards it, if I don't authorize, don't do this? Or do I also need to like create awareness around my products, like making myself accessible to people? Because if you don't make yourself accessible to people, then you're giving them like like an incentive for them to penetrate and pirate your work. But when you make yourself accessible, then people can easily reach out to you, like, okay, we need to do licensing, or we need to like collaborate with you and all of that. I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Question number 3.
Thank you very much for this wonderful community, and thank you, speakers. And I was just wondering why we keep talking. I've attended few conferences here and there, and I keep wondering why or what do we need government for in intellectual property or entertainment? What good will government bring? I think it's more of a contribution right now. I think we should look beyond government. When I've seen a lot, and entertainment industry, football is entertainment. I realize that some of us has been in sport for a long time are actually clamoring for government to keep off football. Then why are the entertainers inviting government to come in? What we need government for is actually security, probably regulation, make grants available. If we have secured environment, there's light, so that your creativity can try, just create the basic. The moment we begin to clamor for government to come into entertainment industry, I think look at the media. How many government media houses are thriving? Look at Festac. Please, I just want to advise us to keep off government and let's concentrate on this private. What we have right now, Burna Boy, or they have promoted the image of this country at no cover from government. That's number one. Number two is until an investor invest in his investment, until then he will not be susceptible to manipulation of his or her intellectual property right. Invest in yourself first, grow, and at a point you'll be able to have protected yourself up to a point. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And then we have the final one that's gone. Okay, over there.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
First, I want to thank the organizers for this great platform. Majorly, I just want to talk on the instance of going to court and arbitration, because recently, sorry, I didn't say my name. My name is Ayola Onuga. So recently, we had a matter that the artist didn't submit to mediation, We have instances where these artists, they don't even know what mediation is and they don't want to talk. Is it best we try court litigation? Would you advise that in those instances we go to litigation and we go through the normal process of litigation? And when I mean the normal process of litigation, I mean even if it doesn't appear, we continue with the case, and at the end we do the judgment and everything.
I won't say much on that because I'm not a lawyer. So I'm going to answer his question on valuation. I'd like to say that before you can say your IP has value, I mean, how do you know it has value? Have you actually created something that is worth IP protection? Because sometimes some people will just come and say he infringed on my IP right. And when you look at it, you realize that in fact, there is no IP in the first place. So how did he infringe? So when you are creating a work, if it's a copyrighted work, what are the criteria for you to have copyright protection? If it's a trademark, what are these criteria? Do you fulfill that criteria? Because without fulfilling those criteria, you can actually say somebody has infringed. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So you created a work, just like we were talking about. You play the music, a guitarist is saying he has IP over something, and you want to value that IP. You want to value something that is not your own. There is no value in it. So you have to understand that that thing you are doing, like intellectual property has different categories. So I know we focus on copyright for music, but there's also trademark. There's a trademark aspect, your name, the phrases, body. I can remember Coca-Cola reaching out to Zautan to use Bekoke, and he collected his money because he had trademark for that slang. So it's not only copyright. Yes, copyright is the focus point, but trademark is like a supporting striker. You can use your trademark to, improve yourself in that aspect as well. Thank you.
So I'll take
Thank
this
you.
question. Yeah?
Over to you. His question.
Okay. So just like what I was saying the other time, these the people we deal with in the industry, they're not people that there are times that it happened by mistake and they just like, okay, I sampled your song by mistake. But there are also times that they do this thing intentionally. And when you go to them that, okay, you have sampled my intellectual property, what are you going to pay or how are we going to solve this? Most of them, sometimes they don't budge until you threaten them with court. And to your solution to your question, there's something called default judgment in court, which when the other party refuses to come and give defense, I think that will solve the situation.
Thank you so much. Thank you. A round of applause for our amazing panelists. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's just take a quick picture session before you leave.
Kumilaya.
Yes, please.
Kumilaya.
Thank you very much, Joey. Your sessions were very insightful. Thank you. Well, we're halfway through. We're halfway through with our intellectual property workshop today. And I just want to say thank you very much for sitting down quietly, listening, taking notes, and asking questions. It's also very important that, as I said earlier, you get to share your thoughts on some of the things that you've heard, some things you've learned, some of the new ideas that have been shared right here. And I shared earlier that you can use the hashtag WIPO, hashtag CIFA, and hashtag intellectual property workshop. And that way you could get to contribute to the pool of knowledge in the social media space as it concerns intellectual property. We're going to take a short break now, a water and networking break. And we're going to reconvene at 3:15. So by 3:15, we need everybody seated in here. Thank you very much for coming through today. Sound check, 1, 2, 3. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon again. Thank you very much for staying with us thus far. Where our break is over and we're ready to start the new session now. So can everybody just settle down real quick and we can begin. If you're outside, I'll please need you to come inside so that we can start this up real quick. Sound check, 1, 2, 3. Sound check, 1, 2, 3. Sound check, 1, 2, 3. Sound guys, can we get more volume on these mics, please? They're very low. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're very. One, two, three. Okay, are we settled in? You don't seem settled in. You. All right, guys. Thank you very much for doing this with us. We've been here. We've had 2 panel sessions. We started off the first panel session talking about who owns what right, and I believe that you have benefited from the sessions that we've had. The second panel session was pointing into protecting IP and how it affects the Nigerian economy. Now we're about to start the second panel, but again, I want to encourage you that it's very important that if you find nuggets that you feel that are very valuable, first of all, you have notepads, so obviously write. But then also want to, encourage you that you can also put out tweets and let people know that you learned something new today at the WIPO and MBA Intellectual Property Workshop. The year is November 11, 2023. Burna Boy, Ira Star, Tyler, some African, big giants, big names have all been nominated for a Grammy, right? And we're still out here battling with, as much as that's amazing, it's happening on the global scene. We love all that, but back home, there's still some things that that we are bankrupt of, which is why sessions like this is very important, where we talk about intellectual property, because a lot of people either know or are choosing to feign ignorance, or they don't know at all, right? And since we've talked about who owns what right, we've also talked about how it affects the economy. It's time for us to talk about in detail where the government comes to play in all this. And at this point, I would like to introduce the panelists for this session. We've all met them before. They've all spoken here. First of all, please, let's have Godwin Tom on stage. GT, thank you very much. GT is the founder of CIFA and the MD Sony Music Publishing, West Africa. And then we also have Moody Oluwa Tobilola. He's the director of WIPO Nigeria. Please, I'd like you guys to join me on stage. Okay, so this is your microphone. You have that. First of all, how do you feel?
Good.
Good. What has been your best part about today, GT?
I think that people came. Thank you for coming.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So let's look at the role of the government in intellectual property protection and enforcement, right? And the first thing I'd really want to find out is what are the key challenges faced in protecting and enforcing intellectual property rights? And let's start with the Nigerian context, and that's where Moody, you would come in. And once you wrap up, GC, I'd like you to expand that a little bit, and let's see what it looks like on the African front. Okay, so let's go with your Moody first.
So thank you very much. I think when you think about enforcement, it's probably one of the most important parts of the whole puzzle. And I think some of the panels today have really focused on the rights and being able to understand where these rights are, how they're aligned. But the real sense of it all comes full circle when you can enforce your rights. And the moment like the system is only as strong as it can be enforced. And so this is where several actors come into play, whether you're thinking about the judiciary, you're thinking about the police force, you're thinking about the customs, you're thinking about different regulatory agencies. These all have a part to play, even in what we talk about in IP. And so one of the challenges, and just to highlight a few, is that first is that we've been saying it all day, but I think the awareness has been a big challenge. If you look at some of the work we've been doing across, I would say, the judiciary, for example, you see that there is still a lot of work that needs to be done to help judges really keep up with the pace of some of the challenges or even interpretations of some of the issues that IP practitioners are facing. And I think as long as you're not able to get clarity even through the court systems, then you look at the jurisprudence of how IP is evolving in that society, it sets a tone on a difficult implementation or enforcement structure. Another point that I think is important to think of when we look at...
Sorry, please hold on. Can we get more volume on their mics, please? I don't know if you guys are struggling to hear as well. Please, can we just do that real quick?
Maybe I should shout.
You can as well try that.
Okay. So, can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So I just talked about the judiciary. I said it's important to look at more capacity building activities and the likes for judges, because that often sets the tone for how IP is understood or interpreted. Now, my friend Justin has given a very good interpretation, for example, on who a songwriter is. Now, if a case gets before a judge and the judge is to make a decision on who a songwriter is, everything Justin has said can be thrown out in the water. Because the moment the judge says, this is how I understand a songwriter, that becomes Nigeria's IP jurisprudence on who a songwriter is. And so then it ties into how IP is understood if we can get the judges who interpret the law to really be able to understand it even better. I think the other thing I wanted to just mention is looking at, in terms of the challenges as well on enforcement, is really looking at how our laws, the policy frameworks, and this is now looking at government, that the government has set out a policy direction. It's still kind of in a state where it's still waiting to be implemented. It's been validated, but it hasn't yet been set out like vetted for public use. But having a policy framework that kind of outlines this is where we want to go as a country in terms of IP, I think is also important, because then everybody's able to see where they fit into the picture. You can see it in the short term, in the medium term, and in the longer term. And I think that's something that most countries that have really made giant strides with their IP have been able to do very well, has been to have a government vision around IP and how that works. And why that ties into the enforcement picture is that various agencies that oftentimes you will not even think about in the context of IP are captured in that kind of policy document. And they're able to see, oh, this is why our work is important to achieving this picture of IP. And so I think having clearer policy guidelines
which translates also to clearer laws, and then also being able to support enforcement bodies such as, importantly, I think the judiciary is a key part, will also go a long way in supporting our IP enforcement structures.
Thank you very much. GC, just before you go ahead, so I took some notes and I just want to be sure that I captured the essence of your points. So you said awareness, that we need to do capacity building for the judges, and then government policy frameworks that highlight, where we need to go in terms of IP, right? So yeah, I think those are very solid points that he had mentioned. I should probably note that down as well. Okay, so now GC.
Just to say that,
okay.
I use the judges as a very particular example.
Okay.
But the awareness needs to cut across. Yes, it needs to cut across. It's not limited to the judges. It has to cut across even the average person on the street. And I think this kind of fora is really important for that as well.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay. So in terms of, taking it down to generally, I think people don't also understand how governments work. And so the education is both ways. Right? If you want to get the government, for example, every time the music industry argues about the government's involvement, there are 10 people saying 10 different things, right? So even as a government, if I tell you I want to help you solve your problem, I don't know who to talk to or which of the conversations to take seriously. So there has to be, I wouldn't say unionization, but there has to be a respect for the bodies that exist representing the owners of these intellectual properties that we speak of. I mean, for example, I know when a collecting society, for example, pays somebody, and I'm looking at the person they paid, and I'm like, this guy did not write this music, right? So what were the parameters that were used to decide who? So even the organizations themselves need education. Then you now talk about the rights owners needing education about how the organization is supposed to function. And then you now have the rights owners being part of these organizations and making decisions. For example, there's a particular collecting society that was having issues with some of his board members. And one of the biggest challenges I had with that whole fight was these aggrieved board members were asking people to leave. But when I read the articles of association of this organization, the only way to change things was to get people to stay, was to get people to join, go to the General Assembly meetings, and vote on decisions that were being made. If you ask people to leave, you are only empowering the person you claim to be fighting. And these were the concerns. So if we're going to truly fix the issues, we have to be clear to the government, because what's happening now is the people who are talking to government are not the people that own the intellectual property. And so we are only going in from this is what should happen. When the government says, oh yeah, bring the people that are supposed to, that you are representing, those people go in and say, nobody's representing me. I want to speak for myself. And the whole conversation goes back to square one. So the rights owners need to come together to aid some of the activities that are done by organizations like WIPO and the people who are carrying this fight to the government to say, okay, we speak in one voice. You that understands how this mechanically works, you go have that conversation so they know how to change it. I think that's one of the biggest challenges I feel we're having. Now, in terms of where we sit as, he represents an organization that is investing a lot of time, resources into ensuring there's education, ensuring that some government policies are fair to the rights owners. The rights owners have to participate. There's a saying that you must participate relentlessly in the manifestation of the outcome that you want in life, right? If they don't get involved, everything we're doing is a waste. That is, for me, the most difficult part of doing this.
And how does this key challenges that we have mentioned now translate on the African front? I mean, Nigeria is pioneering African music at the moment, but there's still other key regions like Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, even South Africa. Are these challenges also very peculiar with those other places, or they have it better than we do?
I would say some of them have it better than we do. They just don't realize it. So I sit in conferences across Africa and they always ask me, what is Nigeria doing? They have so, you guys are so great. And sometimes the irony is hilarious, right? Because we're out here thinking, how do we fix this problem? And somebody is out there thinking you have it sorted, right? The benefit that most of these countries have is they haven't made a lot of the mistakes we've made, because we have to unlearn and then relearn. For a lot of them, they're just looking for information. I'll give you an example. The government of Zimbabwe partnered with UNESCO and set up a call with about 6 Nigerians to advise the government of Zimbabwe on what they could do to build their own music industry. I laughed throughout this thing, because in my head, I was thinking, you get what I'm saying? So I think we have, but on an Africa front, Nigeria's role in ensuring that Africa sits properly on any of the tables cannot be overemphasized, right? Right now, we have some of the biggest songs globally. I mean, they just brought out the list. You would think that Nigeria is Africa, right? So when more organizations within our system are functioning, imagine that our collective society is functioning properly and is able to go sit in a global meeting with other collective societies to demand fair payments for writers from those societies, demand fair deals for Africa, not just for Nigeria. Because if you have a chunk of the attention, you can fight for the rest of your brothers, right? So that role cannot be overemphasized. If we get things right, a lot of African countries are literally going to copy and paste what we're doing. And I think, so I can't say, oh, Ghana has it better. I can't say Tanzania has it better. What I can say is, if we truly work together and if we fix what we need to do, Nigeria will play a very, very important and vital role in the liberation of the African people. Not just in government terms, but I'm saying in terms of how our intellectual property is utilized or exploited and how we benefit from it as well.
I think that's a very amazing point. Who here followed the SAG-AFTRA writer's strike in Hollywood? So you see how these people can come together to fight for their rights because they want better. So right here, as what GT is saying, we need to actually have a collective body and a collective voice in fighting for the rights when it comes to intellectual property. And let's talk about the government priorities. Where does the priority of our government lie at the moment when it comes to intellectual property and developing laws and regulations that work for us?
So first of all, I can't speak for the government.
Okay.
What I can do is say what I hope their focus should be on. I think that enforcement of these laws is very key, because the moment I know that there is a repercussion for my action, I will, even if I take that action, I will think very carefully about it. There is a lot of carelessness in how people abuse intellectual property now. I see this every day. An artist will take a song from another artist. For example, I'll give you an example. I got a call from our Scandinavian office about a Nigerian talent that is chatting in Sweden. And I said, wow,
who's the guy? They told me the name. It's like, okay, let me hear the music. And I called them and I said, we can't sign him. And they said, why? I said, because everything he's singing does not belong to him. So he's sampling, I think it was Salah Benny. Oh, you are shocked. A lot of your big artists on a regular basis are playing songs on charts on Apple Music, Spotify that do not belong to them. And one of the things I've committed to do over the next year is sign the real owners and then go and have that conversation with them. So in terms of what the government could be doing, I think enforcement is one thing. The second thing I think the government should be doing is facilitating collaborations, right? So as a government, I'm able to say to the government of the UK, we need this solution. And then I need to look internally and say, there are people who I can connect to you guys. I'll give you an example of an organization that is used to achieve this very perfectly. The British Council will not give you a grant in Nigeria if you don't have a British partner. So even if we're going to do this project in Nigeria, you have to find a British partner that meets certain criteria. So now it's on you. Now imagine if the government sits with organizations and says, okay, we're a Ministry of the Ministry of the Creative Economy. We need to start creating opportunities within Nigeria. Then Sony announces that they have $100 million fund. What I would expect that the government would do is, hey, Sony International, let's have a conversation. Then you go and look for Justin's organization that is already doing a lot of these things and say, give him the money to execute this project. Because if he executes this project, he's going to create jobs within the economy. That is what I would also, that facilitating collaborations is a very important part. Now, the third thing I would say I hope the government will do is truly identify the value of this industry. Because part of the reason why they are not taking us seriously is because for a very long time, music has always been treated as a communal thing. You know, so you are doing birthday party, invite somebody to come and sing. We have a burial, invite someone to come and play, right? The very idea that somebody owns this song that I like, so I can't just use it, is foreign to a lot of people, right? So it's important for us to get to that point where there is that awareness. I think the last thing I would say about this is in hiring people to represent ministers, politics is a very, very interesting thing. I cannot claim to know how it works, right? Because that's not the career I'm in. But what I can say is that politics is a way to connect economy, right? And to facilitate things. I think that the people who sit advising ministers and people in government need to at least understand the industry that they're supposed to represent, right? It's not just okay for us to have a nice name there. We need people who understand it. So when they're giving advice, the advice is based on information that they have about how that particular industry works. I think those are the things that, in terms of the government side, as I said, they're probably doing it, right? I don't know. I can't speak for the government, but if they're doing anything, I hope these are some of the things they're doing.
Moody, I would like to bring you in at this point. Let's also highlight some of the things that the government has done. Recently, there was a Copyright Act that was signed by the previous administration. You know, what loophole did that fill, and how has that affected the trajectory of how IP affects our economy?
So, I mean, first, I think that in terms of like the act itself, there are very qualified people to speak on that. Just to why you're looking away, they battled back and forth on provisions, but I think that there has definitely been a lot more clarity. I mean, you know, law. One of the biggest challenges with law is that it's never the law responds to a problem, but then the problem evolves, and the law is always constantly trying to catch up with the law. Yeah, and so this really was like a needed response. And I won't even say that everything in the act is perfect, but what you do have is at least an updating to be able to respond to more present realities. And I think clarity around the rights that people have. I think there's also been a lot more, especially around the CMOs, which had been a tricky area, a gray area for a long time. And so we're seeing that the new law definitely has moved things forward. But then the question that will always still come back is, how do we ensure, because laws are not, I mean, you could have the best of laws, right? You could have laws that are perfect in everywhere, and that's why you can transport a law from one jurisdiction into another. But when you try to implement it, you can get very different results. And I think it's very important that the sensitization on what this law really now means for different actors, we're having a clearer picture, understanding that people can really buy in and see how we fit into it and be able to run perfectly with it. So I just think that there is a lot of gray areas that have definitely been addressed with the new legislation, but there's still going to be a lot more work to make sure that all stakeholders are clearly able to see themselves in that act and be able to run with it in the context of how the government wants to run. And if I can just piggy on something that GT has mentioned. Okay, sorry. And if I can just piggy on something that GT has just talked about, I think that, you know, while we can't speak, I can't speak for the government as well. You know, what we try to do, of course, the government, as an organization, for example, we are really like the government is us. You know, that's how the UN system basically is. So, but what I can also just add to something he mentioned is that we also think that there should be a lot more meaningful conversations. Something that really strikes me is how so much distrust exists between actors in a space and the government that's meant to really represent. And, you know, the creative industry is one of those interesting industries that evolves even without government intervention. So you see a lot of the success that you see, and the government hasn't done so much. And so when the government is coming in to say we want to do things, there's still a question of, okay, so now we're making strides. What do you really want to do, right? And are you going to bring things that will destroy the progress? But I think we need to be having more conversations, right? Where in trust, people can sit around the table. And I think that's an area that we as WIPO are very keen to continue to do, you know, is to create more platforms where people are able to sit around and bridge gaps to be making sure that we're working together to achieve objectives that will work both for the industry and as well as meeting the government objectives. A final thing is just on the kind of advisors, right, that come in. This is also where the listening needs to really be happening. Like, if we're not able to create spaces where people can talk to each other, then people run agendas and other people say, okay, but that's not really addressing what we're. So it's like this top-down approach where it ultimately should be something that draws from conversations. I really stress that issue of conversations, which I've seen happening in so many jurisdictions as a way to move things forward.
You want to contribute to that? Would you want to, you know, Okay. I have a question to ask, and that's really about, since the government is also an actor when it comes to intellectual property rights, how do the government benefit in itself? But hold that thought. I usually like engaging like my audience when I'm handling audiences like this. And I have a question which would revolve around what roles, how do you in this audience think that the government can, what part do you think government can play in promoting awareness and understanding IP rights among the public? So just think about it, and after they're done responding to their question, I'll get feedback from the audience. Okay, so yes, let's go. Local, state governments, the governments at the highest tier, how do they even benefit from, intellectual property protection?
That is a whole day's lecture. Let's take an event. So the event is where people come to see the performing artist, right? Sing a song that was created by a composer and a writer. Now, we've just looked at two ends of the conversation. The first end is the creation, and then we're now looking at us having people come watch the performance of that creation. In between that journey and even after it, there are so many jobs that are created, right? The writer, let's start with the writer. Let's start with the person that is, the guy that created the rhythm as well. Let's start with there. And then it goes into the studio, the record label that has signed the artist. The record label that has signed the artist now has the artist go into a studio. In the studio, there's a recording engineer. The music is now created, is sent to the mixing engineer. The mixing engineer sends it to the mastering engineer. The mastering engineer sends it back to the label. The label calls a marketing team, right? Now, even in the studio, the A&R is also part of the conversation. Now, they put it in, everybody's sitting down, strategy, what do we need to do? We now hire PR. PR now says, this is what we need to achieve, but I need a clear plan for the artist to know what is happening. So we hire a manager, right? Now, the manager is coming in to work with the artist. A contract needs to be signed. So you hire a lawyer. We've not even released the music. Now we contact the distribution company. They put the music out. We contact the plugger. We contact the marketing team. We even get a street team. We push the music out and we're promoting it now. Gets on radio. Media buyers see that people like it and place advertising, because that's how media buying works, right? There's more advertising because people are tuning in. And to get people to tune in, you have to do something that excites them. So you play music. So now advertisers are paying radio stations. The OAP now has a job, right? Now you finish all of these things, the song becomes very popular. It's a big song. Yeah, it's killing them, sha. Now you have that put out, and now we have a show. To execute the show, we have to take license from the government to use Murokunola Park. I'm using that as an example. I need to pay last park to use Murokunola Park. On the day of the event, I need to ensure that there is an ambulance. So now, another business opportunity. I need to ensure that there's parking. So I need to now go and meet LASMA and have a conversation. Then I need to ensure that no matter what is going on during the event, that my people are safe. So there has to be strategy around the event. Who's the event planner? Who's the project manager? So now there's a job. Now at the event, I'm now looking at the stage. The stage needs sound, needs a sound engineer, needs lights, needs a lighting engineer. Do you see where this is going? Once the IP is properly protected and monetized, everybody else benefits, right? The artists can now afford to pay those people to put those shows together. And when they're able to pay, they're able to go sit with the local government and say, please, we're doing this show. We want to get the fire service on standby. We want to ensure that there's jobs for local people within the area. So maybe the parking area, Is there a fee we're paying? Let us clarify that now so that somebody can earn. I could go on and on. In terms, we all know about how music is now being used in medicine to calm people down. We all know about the fact that if you walk into a bank, if it's just quiet, sometimes it's weird. So the bank now has to play some music to calm you down while you're there. Remember GT Bank, every time you walk in, every time you walk in, you literally are expecting it as you walk through the thing. The reason why these things happen is because of the impact music has on society. If you now protect that property, everybody else eats. I say this all the time. Every time the reason why MBA was created, everybody has a training for artists. There's a training for artists. There's over 1,000 in Africa. But what people forget is when one artist becomes mildly successful, he employs at least 3 people. At least 3. He can get up to 10. So if we have 1,000 mildly successful artists, who's training the 3,000 to 10,000 people working for them? Do you get what I'm saying? The impact that protecting our IP has on our economy, especially for music, for the creative industry, it cannot be quantified because of how far-reaching what it touches. Banks, at the end of everything, want to reward their staff. They throw a party. You know what I mean? That party needs music. Even if you don't invite the artist to perform, you bring a DJ to play the music. It could go on. I could go on. There's so many places music touches, advertising, everything. So the impact is enormous. But when done properly, we can actually build smaller economies for our local governments that they can benefit from, for the state government that they can benefit from. If we have a proper touring circuit in Nigeria where artists can come. Right now, big artists end their tour in South Africa. F&B Stadium. It ends. Nobody comes here unless you are paying them.
That communicates and that is that prioritizes the ecosystem, right? Because if you're looking for any startup to invest in, find them. That's the first thing. Investment opportunities, right? Be proactive as a government, right? IP-backed financing. When people register or file for patent, there is other economies will give grants, right, to these people. Okay, go and start with this. We're going to invest in your company. There are tax incentives as well. That's the first thing. Second thing is education, right? IP as a course should be mandatory at this point. It should not be a restricted elective for law students. Why? Right. I recognize now the role of IP clubs, where most of them now bring in other departments from art, sciences, is good. When we educate from the grassroots, they know what IP is. When I was talking to someone, the dean of science for a university, and that's one project I'm working on promoting intellectual property knowledge, right? Even with science departments, right? Engineers, researchers, they need to know these things. That's another way to, like collaboration with agencies like CAC and trademark. When you go for trademark CAC registration, please go and register your trademark as well. It's just.
Thank you. Please put your hands together for her.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Emanuela. I'm a recent graduate of law. So I'm going to be coming from the angle of a young lawyer, a young creator, and someone who has had a little bit of relationship working with government agencies. So the first thing I'm going to say is that there is a serious gap between the creator, the IP enthusiast, or the lawyer who knows about IP, and then the government. So the first thing I'm going to say is a solution is the bringing together of these three groups or bodies, bringing them together. So I'm just going to give a scenario. So last year, there was in Edo State, there is the Edo State Film Festival. It started just last year. In that festival, there were over 700 creatives. Now, that's the meeting of, the government of Edo State was invested in that program. Now, in that group, in that place, there were creators, and then there was the government. Now, what there wasn't, there were no IP enthusiasts. So when they were talking about how a filmmaker can do this, do that to make his work come out well, and then they're talking about how musicians can do what they can, they just said, okay, then there's something called IP, protect your work, and then they skipped past it. You see, that kind of stuff. And then here we are IP enthusiasts, few creators, very few creators, and then there are law students, but the government is not, okay, apart from WIPO, that is international body, but the government is not there. So my solution, or what I think the government can do, or what we can all do to help the government, is creating a meeting place where the creators feel welcome, the lawyers feel welcome, and then the government has a hand in it. Because the truth is, when I'm a law student, and when they will say, creators, let's do something, lawyers will not show up, or the law people will show up. And then when the lawyers are doing something, the creators won't show up. So my answer is basically there should be active support and working directly with the government and with the creators, with the lawyers as well. So that's just it. Thank you.
So we're running out of time real quick. I just want to get one person. This guy volunteered earlier, so I'll just take him and then we can bounce.
Hi everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Folarin Hadafin, and I am a recent law graduate from the University of Lagos. So just annexing what she said about sensitization, I believe the government, the Nigerian creative economy has gotten to a point where it is our culture is one of our biggest exports right now. And taking into consideration the fact that last year, or even earlier this year, China had one of the largest patent applications. I think it's high time that Nigeria starts this, grassroots sensitization from secondary school even. People should know that, okay, yes, this is something that you can do, you can protect it. And not just even secondary schools, we need to go into remote places, go to villages, go to markets. If you go to Kano, they make, leather works. People don't know they can protect their design. If you go to maybe Kogi, they make amazing beats. These people don't know they can protect their design. So this initiative BBC had, where there was BBC Igbo, BBC Yoruba, BBC Pidgin, we could try to, create a sensitization scheme that appeals to every and each Nigerian. So that's what I feel like the governments could do to, enhance IP education in Nigeria. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Please put your hands together for everybody that contributed. Thank you. We'll round up the session. We're going to have a Q&A session, and you can ask more questions and contributions at the time. So, sir, I'm saying that because I'll come to you at the time earlier. Thank you very much again. Thank you for contributing. Were those suggestions helpful? Do you think they are valid suggestions? Awesome. Let's talk about online piracy and how the government can try to help solve those issues.
Sometimes the only reason people do something is because it's attractive, right? If you want to stop somebody from stealing, or if you want to make it difficult that's how you stop the person. That's how you make it unattractive. Make it difficult for people to steal. People don't know that there's a camera in certain locations in Victoria Island and Ikoyi by the traffic lights. How many of you know that? Okay. A lot of people don't know, right? And so they just, when they go and renew their car papers, they get an extra bill. After, I remember sitting in the car with a friend of mine, and his driver crossed the red light. And he said to him, there's a fine. The last time I went to pay, he didn't pay, sha. Like he didn't default, but he was trying to scare his driver. So he said, the last time we renewed this paper, that I sent them to renew the paper, an extra bill of 40,000 naira was added to my fee. So it is you that caused it, because now I did not ask you to cross this red light and you crossed it. So last week I was hanging out with him and I asked him, hey, how far are you driver? What happened? He said the guy has not crossed any red lights since that day. Once people begin to feel the natural state and order of life is chaos, right? The people who succeed in life are the people who create order, right? So if you now have a scenario where people are pirating the music, make it more exciting to buy, to sell. This is a government conversation, yes, but the owner of that right, that content also has a role to play. Let me give you an example. There was a time when artists used to fight blogs a lot. Rightfully so. But they were going about it the wrong way. Your music will be pirated, whether you like it or not. If it's a great song, people are going to figure out how to take it without paying for it. What you want to do instead is focus on the people who are paying. That's the first thing my advice would be. Focus on the guys who are paying. Because when you are not focusing on me that's paying you, you're making it, you're not giving me a community to be excited about. So why am I buying it? Do you guys get what I'm saying? So you need to focus more, show that there are people buying. More people are going to say, oh, so I can buy it from here. And the government's role in it's also a conversation once again. To say, here are the consequences of burning. The other thing is alternatives. What are the alternatives? And this is where collaborations between the government and the private sectors come in. I'll give you an example. How many of you know how many post offices are in Nigeria? There are hundreds. Hundreds. scattered across the country. Now, let's say we're able to have a conversation with five department stores, right? So let's say Adide, Ebano, I guess Spa, right? And a few other ones are coming together to say, okay, we want to shop right. We're coming together and we're like, government's like, look, we have 300 locations across Nigeria that we would like you to take up. Small event, but the only condition is we will give you a space in the post office. And the only condition is that you renovate it. Just saying. It's a conversation. So we're gonna give you certain incentives to be able to set up, but to set up you have to renovate. Now that's 300 locations that you push traffic to. 300 locations for distribution of goods and services, including music. 300 locations where we can say, oh, it's a post office and you can deliver packages there. Right now, post offices are places people don't want to go. They're afraid they might get mobbed because there's nobody there. So these are the things that we need to be thinking about, finding alternatives. If you go and burn, I remember when, with good intentions, somebody went and burnt CDs in Alaba, right? Pirated CDs. Now, the problem there is, okay, so when it's burnt, where does the artist go? If you don't create an alternative, you just create more problems. Because now people don't have where to even distribute the music. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, Alaba is still selling CDs. For those of you who don't know, because we in our little bubble think that the internet is where everything is. How many people do you think own cars that have Bluetooth? When you travel to many, yes, Lagos is the most populated city, followed by Kano, Abi, but that's just 40 million of 200 million people. So what are the other 200 million people doing? How do they listen to music? There are people still driving cars that use CD players. And those guys are buying CDs. So when you speak to a guy in Alaba now, he will tell you, okay, me, I don't know if you buy this your album or we don't know if you distribute them because people know they buy. Everybody they online. And you're like, everybody they online. Really? The Facebook stats don't say the same thing. The amount of people on Facebook is about just over 10% or just over 15% of Nigerians living in Nigeria. And Facebook has the highest number of people, actually maybe 15, 20%. And Facebook has the highest number of users in Nigeria. Instagram doesn't have as many people as Facebook does. And Facebook does not have more than 20% of the people living in Nigeria. So when you think about it, really, well, how are all these other guys listening to music? So if you want to fix piracy, identify that a problem exists and then provide an alternative to that problem. Make it easy for people to choose that other alternative. And you will realize that the guy who was making money from piracy has to make a decision to either shut down the business or do legitimate business that's cost of. And I think that is one of the ways we can address these piracy conversations. But what the government can do is enforce, create the enabling environment and enforce.
Thank you. All right, so maybe just to, I can't even match any. I think that's really spot on. All I wanted to add is, as you were speaking, I just recalled, there's a role also for the government to be able, especially when we're dealing with online piracy. It's not always a national problem. And so you find that a number of the sites that you're pirating or that are, the sources of this challenge are not always domiciled in your country. And so it's important for the government to be able to also have these cross-country relationships, right, with enforcement agencies in other countries to be able to track and bring down such sites. an interesting case that happened once, and this, even though it was on the trade side, it was, a case where the US and a very small country, Antigua, right? They had a trade dispute, and the US didn't honor its side of the agreement. And when the WTO was trying to rule on what exactly would you say we can do to harm the US economy, right? The one thing that Antigua was given permission to do was to suspend its IP respect and the respect for IP rights of the US sites. And so from Antigua, there started a huge mass of piracy of US content. And immediately, like the US, stakeholders in the US, they stood up and they moved their government that, look, we have to fix this. And that act just tells me that online piracy can be addressed. That there are ways that governments can work together to address some issues. But it's definitely going to be a bigger conversation that governments also need to be having with other partners where they see there are these sources.
All right, thank you. We have gradually come to the end of our session, but I wouldn't want us to end the session without talking or spotlighting a little bit about investment opportunities and what the government can do to draw investments, especially in the intellectual property industry. I mean, now we have the big three all in Nigeria. They have roots, they're signing smaller labels and stuff like that. Is this a factor that the government had any hand in at all? And if they haven't, right, what can the government do now to attract more investors into the African economy and capitalize on our IP?
Well, the government did have a hand when they mandated the local content, when the conversation, I wouldn't say mandated, when the conversation around ensuring that there's more local content on our media platforms. That was a defining moment for our industry. I will say that. Now, the problem with investments is that you need a minimum viable product that shows that if I put my money here, it is not going to be a black hole. That's the first problem. Because right now, if anybody puts money in, and I speak as a representative of a global business, the question continues to be, so when do we stop investing heavily and when do we start? When does the business start? When does the Nigerian office start paying its bills? Do you understand what I mean? Every year I get an inflow of cash to say, oh yeah, run the business like this. When does the Nigerian business start generating its own income? And my business literally lives on IP, right? It's publishing. So when you sit and look at it and you say, okay, so where are the places I get money? Collecting societies, not functional, right? Okay, let me go and have a direct conversation with the rights owners. No interest. Okay, right? Let me try and educate people and get people to sign deals locally. No interest. In fact, a lawyer in this country emailed my office in London and asked and said he wanted to do a deal, get a deal for his artist. And they said, oh, fantastic. We want to rope in the Nigerian MD to the conversation, so we'll set up a call. And the person replies, I know Godwin Tong, but I do not want to have anything to do with the Nigerian office in this conversation. They carried that email and came to show me. They said, see what they are saying. What that says is, so what's the point of setting up a Nigerian office if this is the general feeling? So people, it's enormous. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's crazy. So for us to truly talk about the investments that should come in, we as an industry need to rally around it. We're almost the only industry, even including with the creative space. The music industry is almost the only one that doesn't speak in one voice. So we can't even figure out what we want to know what we want to ask for. And that is another problem. So the investments will come when there is a minimum viable product. Right now, our industry survives on end of year parties, private events, weddings. It shouldn't be so. In fact, in December, the artists should be resting. They should be spending time with their families, especially the ones that have toured the whole of Europe. But you see, what's happening is if you look at a Wizkid, for example, or a Burna Boy, or a Davido, most times they have one show in December, their own show. Why? Because they've been making money the whole year. Now imagine if a local artist, and I'm not talking about an artist that has blown, because the bigger problem again is that everybody wants to blow. An artist who simply makes music and monetizes it, his IP is protected, he makes money as the writer, right? And then he makes money as a recording artist, then makes money as a performing artist. He's able to tour the country all year. In December, he's going to spend time with his family. You get what I'm saying? He's not going to need to ask anybody, the bank or anybody, to pay. The bank will play his CDs. He knows that as they're playing it, the collecting society is collecting his money. He can go home and rest. This is where it gets to, and then an investor says, oh, I want a piece of that money as well. Then they come in. Until that happens, what we're going to have is, suction pipe. Everybody will bring their suction pipe and then they will chuck it into our ground. And they will suck and they will leave. And that's what will happen. That's what's happening now. Let me tell you how I feel. And this is something that I will say cautiously. It's a parable. If you get it, you get it. I feel like I'm at the edge of the shore. They just gave me this somebody just said, yeah, come and stand. Your new work is to stand by the edge of this shore and welcome big ships. Right? And so my first week on the job, on this shore, I see this massive ship coming. And I'm like, they're bringing things. Things are happening. My job is working. And then I carry my binoculars and I look. The ship is empty. Why is the ship empty? So I call the people that sent the ship and I say, I see the ship. Oh. They say, hey, great. Please welcome the ship. I said, there's nothing inside. And they're like, yeah, there's usually nothing inside. I said, no, you have to put something inside. Because sure you're coming to take something. They say, yes, now. I say, yeah, so put something inside. So that you can take from what you've also contributed from. And like, but we've not been doing this thing like this before. Say, I know, but now you should do it. They're like, let's think about it. But okay, you know what? Let us send like 2-3 ships. And then after that, we'll start bringing things. And I'm like, no. These ships should go back. So now they said, all right, fine. We'll send the ship back and we'll put something inside to bring. So me now feeling proud. I've fought for my people. And now turn around. My people are now inside the forest looking at me. Like, are you mad? Did you not see the ship was empty? You want to enter and go. That's what it feels like to fight for rights owners right now. Because everybody's thinking about international money. International, we want dollars. That's the only reason why a lawyer would write that email. Because he wants dollars. Right? He wants pounds, euros. But you see, the problem is we're not building anything. We don't own anything. So why should the investor come here if you would give it to him anyway? Why should I invest? Why should I support what you are doing? Why should I help you? I was talking to Justin earlier. It may take me $100 to make this table. Yeah? but it may cost $500 to make the same table in the UK because of the scarcity in resources to make it. But they will sell this table I made here and the table made there for $1,000. Why can't you give me the 400 back? The reason why they can't give me the 400 back is because, well, after you've made it here, the person that you gave it to brought it to us and gave us for free. So why should I pay you that you are fighting for them? There's no point. They want the money. I'm giving them the money. So we don't have an ecosystem. As I said, we are heavily dependent. We are like a piece of paper hanging on brooms. And those brooms are not even strong at end of year parties. And as the economy gets harder, more banks are going to stop doing these events. More people are going to stop inviting artists to perform in their homes because they now have to think about surviving the next year, the next economic hardship. That is the reality we're dealing with right now. And if we don't fix that problem, it's going to get worse for everybody.
So in other words, poverty is really affecting us too.
Is knocking on the doors. So when a FDIs, an FDI, for FDI to happen, there has to be an enabling environment, right? Because people forget that FDI gets returns, and the returns go back to where they came from. Do you get what I'm saying? The returns go back to where they came from. So the issue isn't whether people want to invest. There are people that want to invest money. They are standing by. They want to invest. And when I say I'm talking billions of dollars, the problem is when they ask, how do we get this money back? Nobody can answer.
Well, that is the end of this panel. Thank you very much, GT. Thank you very much, Moody, for really enlightening us. So we're out of time, but I want to be able to take questions only. So does anybody sitting here right now has a question?
Please don't give Justin phone. No, Mike. I'm playing.
Aside Justin, is there any other person here that has a question to ask? Okay, so I have Justin. So we'll go with the three of you, and then we wrap up real quick.
Okay, let me quickly lay a foundation to my question. This panel discussion has just ended with a degree of gloom. And I want to say that is not exactly so. I see some hope, I see some low-hanging fruits, right? And this ties into government. What does government really do? Government provides services, executive services, legislative, and judicial services. We've highlighted the difficulty in the judicial aspect, the resolution of disputes. The judges are not well trained. It takes forever to resolve disputes, and all of that. And that ties into investment. Because if you put your money down and then there's a dispute, your money is hanging in the dispute, and then no returns, your investment is stuck, right? However, there's WIPO to the rescue. Why do I say so? Because, okay, WIPO does a lot. Who are those walking out of my class? All right, so WIPO does a lot of awareness. We're aware of that. Everybody knows that. But WIPO also provides services. Dispute resolution services. Oh, music IP is so complex. You need experts. They have expert determination services. Isn't that so? Yes. We have mediators, expert mediators, arbitration, right?
we want those services. So my question goes to Mr. Moody. Can you tell us in, yes, I'm putting you on the line, man. Can you tell us in concrete terms what you can promise as per the provision of those services? Right? Why we are not waiting for some investor? Why we are not waiting for some government official or no. Direct to you now. What can you promise us that we can hold you to? There's no Director General of NCC here now. There's no Tinubu here now. So what can you promise us that we can hold you to as to making those services available? Let people are not even aware to start with, but available, and so that's my question.
Wala. I can go. All right. So Justin, I think I should have insisted that they don't give you the mic. Yeah, but I think very, very seriously, I think thanks for the question. What WIPO, of course, can do, being just like I said at the beginning, who we are a global forum, right? So for those who don't understand it, we cannot actually overtake or take over the role of a government in country. So even though we work in the country, we are still a global body, right? And at the end of the day, intellectual property is still a national decision. It's a national priority. And so we as an organization, we support the government to achieve its objective. And to that end, just to start from there, that most of the work that we do, of course, is still, that's why I mentioned the point about this convening conversations, because we find that in those conversations, we're able to take strands of things that we can run with quickly and know that, yes, the government is not against necessarily what we're doing. But I'll just say maybe from our conversations, I'll give three things that I would answer your question on. One is the education. And I know that there has been a reference also to making intellectual property available, not just across institutions, universities, to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to do that. And that's something that we are actively working on. And I can actually commit to you, you can hold me to that universities in the country will have access to intellectual property courses from WIPO. Yes, so that's something that we are actually working on, yes. And the WIPO Academy has actually committed to it as well. So we are seeking to roll that out. And of course, it's for institutions that say, yes, we're happy to take this on. And so what we've done in Brazil, we've done also in China, is the same thing where universities come together and they say, look, yes, we make these courses available and we provide that, we invest resources in that as well. The second thing, which you mentioned, which I have to follow your lead, is around this alternative dispute resolution. And ADR is one of those things, I think, even from an investment perspective, like you rightly said, it's either encourages this confidence of an investor to say, yes, in this climate, disputes can be resolved. And I know that the risk level is not as high as where for the next 10 years, I'm still trying to resolve an issue that I put so much into. And so we have signed, of course, agreements with the Copyright Commission, as well as, of course, the Patents and Designs Registry, just to be able to facilitate this ADR in country. And the commitment I would say on that, of course, because those are already in existence, but the commitment is that WIPO is also going to be putting in funds to support mediation cases. And so we're working to have a pot of resources that we can actually use to fund some mediation cases, of course, so that
we have sometimes people just don't, they say they can't afford a mediator, they can't, but then there will be a pot that people can access freely and be able to use to fund some cases up to a certain cap. But that's something that again will be done, announced very shortly. Okay. I stop there. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is David. Okay, my question is directed to you, sir. It's a bit off topic, but I'm an artist, and sometime 2022, I put out a project, and based on some criteria, it might have been successful, but it didn't do what I wanted to do. So it kind of spoiled my interest in the music business. So I was thinking, for the Music Business Academy, would I be, as an artist, be allowed to attend like the whole program? Because I'm really curious on music business, not just from artist perspective.
Of course.
Oh, okay. So,
the purpose of the Music Business Academy for Africa was not only to focus on the business guys. We also want the artists to learn. Because if you understand, even if you don't know all of it, you at least have the right questions you can ask your manager, right? You know what the manager is supposed to do, what the A&R is supposed to do, what your lawyer is supposed to do by simply being part of the program. So I know quite a number of artists that are, MBA this year has 370, over 370 participants, students taking place from across the globe, right? I even think as an artist, you should join, and I'll tell you why. Because you will see the managers that are working, you see the A&Rs that are working, you see the event organizers that are working, you see all the guys that are serious about what they're doing, and you're able to decide when you leave, I think I want to work with that guy. You know what I mean? But also you come with a certain level of knowledge to the conversation. So when somebody is talking, because as an artist, when you don't know, you don't know. Somebody will just be talking nonsense. You're like, sounds really cool. You know what I mean? But the moment you have an idea, once something goes off track, you're able to identify it and you say, no, that makes no sense. So I'd advise that you do it. Thanks.
Hello. Thank you very much. And I've learned so much. See, when you hear the song, Nigeria, my beloved country, you think they don't know. But sing Nigeria, Jaga, Jaga, then that is when you know that Obasanjo actually listen. Please, what do we do? I don't want everybody here to think that government, most of the people that are in government or in governance are dullard. They know. How can WIPO? The problem I'm just saying is implementation. The most disheartening thing is when I have this, my friend in white, gets into government, he knows everything, and he becomes a senator, and you try, oh, hi, lawyer, and say, we are working on it. And they never worked on it. Can you say they don't know? I've had so many professors trying to push domesticate some WIPO, whatever, maritime, and they know. So our problem really may not be that they don't know. You have said something that I picked. But please, when you get into government, please help us. Don't. That is the worst thing, that you will see that your friend that is in government that knows, and you call them. Can you feel what I'm saying? Can you feel my pain? I don't want to start. And they don't know. It's like they go to Australia, they know how strong the collective societies are. They have the politicians, they go to America, they see it. For implementation, right? They know how it works. So how can you fix that? How can we fix that? I don't want it to be like, they don't know. We have to educate them. You will be shocked that when you are talking to them, we are working on it.
Let me just say something about this. You're right. Some of them know. But you see, what kind of information do they have? Right? Is a different conversation. So you can go to, it's like when I go to the UK, I'm intrigued by the underground. Very intrigued by it. Because I could literally, and I actually take notes when I'm going up the stairs because I'm like, okay, so I'm going up the stairs. That means this train I just entered is deeper in the ground than the next one I'm about to go in. I'm intrigued, right? But unless I'm an engineer who has dealt with building things on the ground, I will have absolutely no knowledge about it. That's the first thing. So sometimes they might have an idea that it's working. The challenge is the mechanics of it may be difficult for them to understand, which is why they need education. The second thing is we also have to participate in this manifestation. So let me give you a path to a conversation here. We want to pass a law. We've written this very nice document that can be pushed in. So we need lobbying because lobbying is done everywhere in the world. To do lobbying, we need money. Yeah? But also to lobby, you need friends. So how do we make friends? We now have the Ministry of Health. What has health got to do with music? What if the Ministry of Health can work, what if the bodies within the music industry can go to the Ministry of Health and say, we've developed a scheme for health insurance, right? We can work with you to deliver this and make it work. But you have to support this hour. You have to follow, you have to put hand in this thing. We go to the Ministry of Works and we say, there is a company that wants to invest $3 billion in touring in Nigeria. They want to build venues. This thing I'm saying, I'm not just talking out of my head. They exist. Live Nation has been here 4 times, right? So we say, there's a company that wants to invest big money in touring. Ministry of Works, how do we do this? What do we need to fix the roads? What do we need to do this? Can these investors support some of these things so that people can get to shows and we can build venues in Port Harcourt, build venues in Enugu? So if a young artist wants to tour, we can have venues that sit 200 people, 150 people that he can tour around, and you can take a bus and drive from Lagos to Abuja and execute 20 shows. But you must support this our thing so that we can bring this investment in. That is how we get the attention of the government. We have to think beyond just going there to fight and asking the same questions over and over and over. We have to now start being a lot more creative in our approach. So that's my response to that.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I mean, we need to learn how to speak to government. And I think that's really what GT has really touched on. It strikes me sometimes where I feel like we're missing an opportunity because talking to government is a whole game in itself. I mean, like learning the language of the government and learning how to speak to, how to engage, how to get these conversations in. Because the friend that you talk about that has gotten into government that says we're working on it, there's a whole complex bubble that sometimes they're also working within. But I think once the value proposition is being made out and people are able to see what they can benefit, I think even the government wants to look good. You know, the opportunity for a government to be able to show that it's working with people on the ground to develop services for its people is what any government is going to jump on. And so I think just being very creative in the ways that we engage with government, I think is key. The last thing, I know the moderator is going to push me out, but the last thing I wanted to say, and it just to say, because it ties into this question on what does a government benefit from IP, right? And you know that there are some of these songs that support tourism. There are songs that have come, I mean, like Ozumba Mbadiwe. I know a number of friends that want to come to Nigeria and see Ozumba Mbadiwe, right? Just because of the song. Yeah. Or it's a song like, you know, but these happen. Or Oju Elegba, Oju Elegba, they know my story. And everyone's like, we want to go to this Oju Elegba. A friend of mine came and said, I had to take him to Oju Elegba, right? And what I'm saying is that in rebranding the country, in creating opportunities for investment, the artists and the work that we put out is also a huge benefit for the government and even for the image of the country. And so when you're talking to government and you're able to show the government the benefits they have from the work that we have together, then I think we do get a stronger chance to be able to push some of these messages. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody, for participating in our panel session. Thank you very much, Moody. Thank you very much, GT. This has been really amazing. Again, as I said earlier, if you have knowledge that you have learned, I'm sure you have gained something from. Did you? Abi, you did not gain anything. So please share with other persons, put it out on social media. So by the time WIPO and MBA for Africa says next year, or maybe in another quarter, we're doing another intellectual property workshop, maybe we'll not have more lawyers here. We'll probably have more artists and more, creators in the building. This has been really amazing. Thank you very much. And this is the end of our session. Would you like to give a closing remark, or we're done? We're done. Okay.